Hello everyone, and welcome to the DxD Tales. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei was an alpha werewolf and fall in love with the Nekomata sisters Kuroka and Koneko. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Blood Moon Rising. Issei Hyodo woke with his heart pounding like a war drum against his ribs. Sweat slicked his skin despite the autumn chill seeping through his bedroom window. The digital clock glowed, 3:17 a.m., the same time he'd awakened every night this week. Outside, the waning moon hung bloated and heavy in the sky, its usual silver light tinged with an unnatural reddish hue. Something was changing. Within him, around him, the world smelled different tonight, richer, more complex, as if someone had suddenly removed cotton from his nostrils. He could distinguish the synthetic tang of fabric softener on his sheets, the lingering trace of his mother's miso soup from dinner, and bizarrely, the neighbor's cat prowling through their garden 3 houses away. Dragging himself from bed, Issei pressed his forehead against the cool glass of his window. His reflection startled him. Amber flecks danced in his normally brown eyes, disappearing when he blinked. Sleep wouldn't return tonight. It hadn't properly visited in days. Just stress, he muttered, though the explanation felt hollow. Entrance exams for Kuo Academy were approaching, but academic pressure had never affected him physically before. This felt primal, like his bones were trying to reshape themselves beneath his skin. The shower did little to wash away the restlessness. By dawn, Issei had already run 8 kilometers through the sleeping streets. His muscles burning pleasantly, barely winded when he should have been gasping for breath. Something was definitely different. "You're up early," his mother remarked when he entered the kitchen, her eyebrows rising at his sweat-soaked t-shirt. "And exercising. Are you feeling all right?" "Just restless," Issei said, snagging an apple from the fruit bowl. His teeth sank into the flesh with unusual sharpness, the sweetness exploding across his tongue with unprecedented intensity. His mother frowned, pressing a cool hand against his forehead. "You feel warm. Maybe you should stay home today." "I'm fine," he insisted, though fine wasn't the right word. Electric might be closer, as if lightning had replaced his blood. "Big test today. Can't miss it." The lie came easily. There was no test, but he couldn't explain his compulsion to go to school. Something was waiting for him there. He could feel it. The autumn air carried 1,000 stories as Issei walked to school. His heightened senses catalogued each one. The bakery 2 blocks over pulling fresh bread from ovens, a couple arguing behind closed windows, cologne and perfume trails marking human pathways like invisible strings. Overwhelming at first, but strangely exhilarating once he stopped fighting it. Kuo Academy rose before him, the converted private girls' school still predominantly female despite recently going co-ed. Normally, this fact alone brightened Issei's day. Today, however, his attention fixed on something else entirely. A scent, unfamiliar yet instinctively recognizable, not human, something wild and feline, mingled with power that made the hair on his arms stand on end. His eyes tracked automatically to its source, a petite first year with white hair sitting alone beneath a maple tree, her uniform immaculate, her posture rigid. Nothing about her appearance suggested anything unusual, yet every newly awakened instinct in Issei's body screamed that she was different. Their eyes met across the courtyard. Hers widened fractionally, nostrils flaring as if catching his scent just as he had detected hers. For a breathless moment, recognition passed between them, the acknowledgement of 2 beings identifying something inhuman in each other. Then her eyes narrowed, suspicious and cold. Issei found himself walking toward her before consciously deciding to move. Each step felt significant, as if he were crossing more than just physical distance. "We haven't met," he said when he reached her, surprised by the confidence in his voice. "I'm Issei Hyodo. Koneko Tuju," she replied, her voice soft but edged with wariness. "You smell strange." The blunt observation caught him off guard. No social niceties, no pretense. "So do you," he countered, lowering his voice. "Like wilderness and power." Alarm flashed across her face, quickly masked by indifference. "You should stay away from me." She gathered her books, movements precise and controlled. "And whatever's happening to you, be careful." This school has more predators than you realize. Before he could respond, she was gone, slipping away with unnatural grace, leaving him with more questions than answers and the unsettling feeling that he'd stepped through a doorway he couldn't return through. Throughout the day, Issei found himself tracking Koneko's movements despite her warning. Her scent lingered in the hallways, distinctive among the human students. Twice he caught her watching him, her expression unreadable. Whatever she was, she recognized something in him, something he himself didn't understand. By afternoon, the strange symptoms intensified. Sounds became painfully sharp. Chalk on blackboards, whispered conversations 3 classrooms away, the thunderous drumming of hundreds of heartbeats. Colors brightened until they hurt his eyes. Scents overwhelmed him, making his head swim. During math class, his pencil snapped between his fingers, splinters embedding in his palm. The wounds healed before he could extract them, skin knitting together seamlessly. Issei stared at his unblemished hand, heart racing with a mixture of wonder and terror. "Mr. Hyodo," his teacher called, "are you paying attention?" "Sorry," he mumbled, hiding his trembling hands beneath his desk. Not feeling well. That much, at least, was true. His skin felt too tight, muscles cramping as if trying to reconfigure themselves. The restlessness had transformed into something more urgent, a pressure building inside him that demanded release. When the final bell rang, Issei practically fled the building, bypassing his usual route home. His feet carried him toward the old shrine on the outskirts of town, abandoned decades ago and surrounded by forest. Instinct guided him away from populated as the pressure within him built toward something inevitable. The shrine stood in a small clearing, its red torii gate faded and listing slightly. Stone lanterns lined the approach, cracked with age and covered in moss. The place radiated ancient calm, untouched by modern urgency. Issei collapsed onto the worn stone steps, gulping air into lungs that suddenly seemed insufficient. "What's happening to me?" he whispered to the empty shrine. "You're awakening," answered a voice from the shadows. Issei spun toward the sound, suddenly alert. 3 figures emerged from the tree line, men in dark clothing with predatory grins and eyes that gleamed with unnatural light. Not human. The knowledge came instinctively, along with the certainty that they meant him harm. "We felt you from miles away," said the tallest one, rolling his shoulders with casual menace. "A werewolf awakening for the first time in decades, and right in our territory. The boss will be pleased." "Werewolf," Issei repeated, the word simultaneously absurd and strangely right. Don't play dumb," interrupted another, this one lean with cruel features. "Your kind is supposed to be extinct. Hunted to extinction after the last war. Yet here you are, stinking up our town with your dog scent." The third stepped forward, raising a hand crackling with crimson energy. "Nothing personal, puppy, but we can't have wolves running around unchecked. Not after what happened last time." Issei backed away, survival instinct screaming through his veins. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a normal student." "Normal students don't have eyes like that," said the first, gesturing to Issei's face. "Or heal from wounds in seconds. You're changing, and we're going to make sure you don't complete the process." They moved with inhuman speed. Surrounding him, energy gathered around their hands. Magic, his mind supplied, though how he recognized it remained a mystery. One blast struck the ground near his feet, scorching the ancient stone and sending him scrambling backward. Pain exploded through Issei's body as another blast caught him in the shoulder, the impact spinning him around and slamming him against a stone lantern. Instead of fear, a strange calm descended. The pressure that had been building inside him all day crystallized into something focused and primal. Time seemed to slow. His senses sharpened beyond anything he'd experienced before. He could hear the attackers' heartbeats, smell their excitement, see the minute adjustments in their stance as they prepared another assault. "I don't want to fight you," Issei said, surprised by the growl underlying his words. The trio laughed. "It won't be a fight," said the lean one. "It'll be an extermination." They attacked in unison, converging from 3 directions with supernatural speed. Something snapped inside Issei, the final barrier holding back whatever had been clawing its way free for days. Pain ripped through him, deep and transformative as his body responded to the threat. His hands curled into claws, nails extending and hardening into deadly points. His jaw ached as teeth elongated into fangs. Muscles coiled with new power. Senses expanding exponentially until he could taste his attack as surprise on the air. The first attacker reached him, magic crackling between his fingers. Instead of dodging, Issei met him head-on. Driven by instincts he didn't recognize. His clawed hand caught the man's wrist, deflecting the magical blast into the sky. With strength that should have been impossible, he lifted his attacker and hurled him into a tree trunk 20 feet away. The impact splintered wood, but Issei had already turned to face the second threat. Moving with fluid grace that felt both foreign and natural, he ducked beneath a blast of energy and closed the distance in a heartbeat. His claws raked across the man's chest, drawing first blood and a howl of pain. "He's turned already," shouted the third, backpedaling frantically. "This isn't right. He shouldn't be able to control it on the first change." Issei didn't understand what was happening, but his body moved with deadly purpose, as awakening to a dance it had always known. The third attacker launched a desperate barrage of energy blasts. Issei weaved between them, the world moving in slow motion around him, each step calculated and precise. When he reached the final attacker, he seized him by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. "Who are you?" he demanded, voice distorted by fangs. "What are you?" "Devils," gasped the man, clawing at Issei's grip. "We serve Lord Phoenix. The treaty says your kind isn't allowed in this territory." "I don't know anything about treaties or territories," Issei growled. "I just want to be left alone." A new scent cut through the clearing, another non-human presence, this one similar to Kaneko's but stronger, wilder. Issei's head snapped toward it, instinctively identifying a new threat. A woman stood atop the shrine roof, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Long black hair flowed around a face of extraordinary beauty, and amber eyes gleamed with feline intensity. Black cat ears perched atop her head, and two tails swayed behind her with hypnotic grace. My, she purred, voice rich with amusement. A baby wolf playing with devils. How interesting. The devils froze at her appearance, their fear palpable. "The black cat," whispered one, face paling. "Kuroka the stray. You remember me," she said, smile widening to reveal delicate fangs. "I'm flattered. Now run along and tell your master that this shrine is neutral ground under the old laws. His little enforcement squad is trespassing. We serve Lord Phoenix," the lean devil snarled, regaining some courage. "This territory belongs to no one," interrupted a new voice, deeper and resonant with authority. All eyes turned to the Torii gate where an elderly woman stood, leaning on a gnarled wooden staff. Despite her apparent age, she radiated power that made even Kuroka straighten attentively. Silver hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes shone with the same amber glow that Issei had glimpsed in his own reflection that morning. "Amara Silver Wind," one devil whispered, the name carrying weight and history. "These lands were declared neutral by the Spectral Council after the Great War," the woman said. Approaching with measured steps, "No faction may claim them, and all may seek sanctuary here. Your master knows this." The devils exchanged uncertain glances. Whatever this elderly woman was, she clearly outranked them in the supernatural hierarchy. "Tell Lord Phoenix that an alpha has awakened on neutral ground," Amara continued. "Tell him the Silver Wind Pack has returned. If he wishes to discuss old treaties, he can seek audience through proper channels." For a moment, it seemed the devils might challenge her. Then the tall one nodded sharply. "This isn't over," he warned, glaring at Issei. Then all three vanished in flashes of crimson light, leaving behind the scent of brimstone. The silence that followed felt deafening. Issei stared at his transformed hands, powerful, clawed, dusted with blood that wasn't his own. With the immediate threat gone, confusion and panic threatened to overwhelm him. "Breathe," Amara instructed, approaching slowly. "Focus on your heartbeat." First transformation is always the most difficult to control. "I don't understand what's happening," Issei said, hating the tremor in his voice. "They called me a werewolf. I'm not. I can't be." "But you are," Kuroka interjected, leaping gracefully from the roof to land beside them. "I could smell it on you before you even transformed. Wolf blood, old and powerful." She circled him, examining with unabashed curiosity. "Though you're different from the wolves I've encountered before." He's not just any werewolf, Amara said quietly. He's an alpha, the last of the royal bloodline, if I'm not mistaken. Issei shook his head, backing away from both of them. This isn't possible. I'm just a normal high school student. My parents are normal. There's been some mistake. Your birth parents weren't normal at all. Amara replied, her expression softening with something like compassion. And there's no mistake in blood. You're the son of Riku Moonfang, the last alpha king of the northern packs. Your heritage was sealed to protect you, but such bindings always break eventually, especially during a blood moon. The casual revelation of his adoption hit Issei like a physical blow. My parents never told me I was adopted. To protect you, Amara said. The sealing ritual altered their memories as well. They believe you are their biological child, and in all the ways that matter, you are their son. Kuroka observed their exchange with unconcealed interest, her tails swaying hypnotically. Family drama aside, she interrupted, why are you here? I thought I sensed my sister in this area, not a wolf awakening. Koneko, Issei said automatically, remembering the white-haired girl's reaction to him. She goes to my school. She knew something was different about me. Kuroka's playful demeanor vanished, replaced by intense focus. You've met Sharon. How is she? Is she safe? Sharon, Issei repeated, confused by the name change. Her true name, Kuroka explained impatiently. Before the devils renamed her Koneko. She seemed fine, Issei said cautiously, noting the genuine concern beneath Kuroka's demanding tone. Quiet, keeps to herself, told me to stay away from her. A complex mixture of emotions crossed Kuroka's face, relief, sadness, resignation. Good advice, she murmured. You should have taken it. Amara tapped her staff against the stone steps, reclaiming their attention. The blood moon rises in 3 days, she said, gesturing to the reddening sky. Your first full transformation will occur then, ready or not. Before that happens, you need to understand what you are and the dangers that come with it. Dangers like those devils? Issei asked. Devils, angels, fallen angels, and worse, Amara confirmed. The supernatural world has maintained an uneasy peace for centuries. But old hatreds run deep. Werewolves were nearly hunted to extinction during the last supernatural war. Your bloodline in particular was targeted because of your potential power. Issei looked down at his hands, watching in fascination as claws retracted and skin returned to normal. The transformation was reversing now that the threat had passed. What makes my bloodline different? The Moonfang line can trace its origins back to Fenrir himself, Amara explained. Alpha wolves of your lineage possess abilities beyond ordinary werewolves, greater strength, faster healing, resistance to silver. And most importantly, the power to lead and unite others. Kuroka gave a low whistle. No wonder those devils were eager to kill him before he fully awakened. An alpha wolf could challenge the power balance in this region. Amara nodded grimly, which is why you need training, and quickly. Once word spreads that a Moonfang alpha has awakened, every faction will either try to recruit you or eliminate you. The weight of these revelations pressed down on Issei like a physical burden. Yesterday, his biggest concern had been passing entrance exams. Now he stood between supernatural factions with an inheritance he never asked for. I need to tell my parents, he said finally. They'll be worried if I don't come home. The memory spell on them is still active, Amara cautioned. If you reveal your transformation, it could break suddenly, causing them psychological harm. Better to let it fade gradually as they adjust to the changes in you. Issei ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed. So what do I do? Just go home and pretend everything's normal while I'm turning into a monster. Not a monster, Amara corrected sharply. A werewolf. There's a difference. And yes, for now, you maintain appearances while I teach you to control your abilities. Kuroka stretched languidly, seemingly bored with the conversation. Well, this has been enlightening. But I should continue my search for Sharon. Devils are crawling all over this town. Wait, Issei said, suddenly remembering. Koneko. Sharon. She goes to my school. I could help you talk to her. The offer made Kuroka pause. Vulnerability briefly visible beneath her confident exterior. She wouldn't want to see me, she said quietly. Not after what happened. What did happen? Issei asked. Kuroka's expression darkened. I killed our devil master to protect her, and then I ran, leaving her behind. In the eyes of Devil Society, I'm a criminal. In my sister's eyes, I'm a murderer who abandoned her. Before Issei could respond, a familiar scent reached him, the same wilderness and power he'd detected from Koneko earlier, but now mingled with fear. His head snapped toward the forest edge, every sense suddenly alert. Sharon, Kuroka whispered, clearly detecting the same. A small figure burst through the tree line, white hair disheveled, school uniform torn at the sleeve. Koneko froze when she saw the three of them, her eyes widening at the sight of her sister. Kuroka, she said, the name barely audible. Little sister, Kuroka replied, her usual playfulness absent. You've grown. The tension between them crackled like static electricity. Years of separation, hurt, and misunderstanding concentrated into a single moment of recognition. That moment shattered, as five figures emerged from the forest behind Koneko, devils like the ones Issei had fought, but stronger, power radiating from them in palpable waves. Well, said their leader, a tall man with flame-red hair and cruel eyes. The stray cat, the extinct wolf, and the old guardian all in one place. Lord Phoenix will reward us handsomely for this cleanup operation. Koneko stumbled forward, putting distance between herself and the devils. They followed me from school, she explained tersely. Said they detected a werewolf awakening and thought I might lead them to it. And you did, said the leader, smiling coldly. Thank you for your service. Kuroka moved with blinding speed, placing herself between the devils and her sister. Touch her, and they'll be finding pieces of you for the next century. Issei felt the change coming again, triggered by the threat. This time, he didn't fight it. Power surged through him, the transformation smoother and less painful than before. Within seconds, he stood beside Kuroka. Claws extended and fangs bared. Amara sighed deeply, as if dealing with troublesome children. I did warn you, she told the devils, her elderly appearance belied by the power gathering around her. This shrine is neutral ground. Neutrality is a luxury of peacetime, replied the leader. With a Moonfang Alpha awakening, we're no longer in peacetime. What if? Allowed happened too quickly for human eyes to track. The devils attacked en masse, magical energy scorching the air. Kuroka countered with her own magic, space itself seeming to bend around her hands. As she created shields of purple energy, Koneko moved with surprising skill for her size, her small fists delivering devastating blows to any devil that came near. Issei found himself fighting back to back with Amara, whose elderly appearance had given way to something far more formidable, a partial transformation that left her silver-haired and amber-eyed, moving with the grace of someone centuries younger. Focus your attacks, she instructed calmly, as if they were in a training session rather than a battle. Werewolves are strongest when they direct their energy purposefully. Following her guidance, Issei concentrated on his movements, finding that his body responded with increasing precision. Each strike landed exactly where intended, each dodge executed with fluid grace. His wolf instincts guided him through the battle like a dance he'd practiced for years. One devil hurled a spear of light toward Koneko, who was occupied with another attacker. Without conscious thought, Issei leapt into its path, claws slashing through the energy construct and dispersing it harmlessly. The act drew a surprised look from both Nekomata sisters. Behind you, Kuroka shouted, moments before a devil materialized at Issei's back. He spun, but not quickly enough. Pain lanced through his side as magical energy seared flesh and bone. The wound would have killed a human instantly, but Issei felt his body already beginning to heal, the alpha blood in his veins working overtime. Rage followed pain, a primal fury that threatened to overwhelm his rationality. The world took on a reddish tinge as the wolf within pushed for complete control. Don't lose yourself, Amara's voice cut through the haze. You are more than your beast. With tremendous effort, Issei pulled back from the edge of feral rage. Maintaining control while channeling the wolf's power, he seized his attacker by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. Tell your master that I don't want his territory, Issei growled. I don't want anything except to be left alone. Next time he sends assassins, I won't be so merciful. He hurled the devil aside with enough force to shatter stone, a demonstration of strength that gave the other attackers pause. Something was changing in the atmosphere of the battle, the devils' confidence wavering as they realized their target wasn't the easy prey they'd anticipated. They Our leader assessed the situation with cold calculation. 3 of his subordinates were already down, and the remaining 2 were tiring. Against a fully awakened alpha, a Nekomata master of Senjutsu, a legendary werewolf elder, and even the smaller Nekomata whose strength was surprisingly formidable, victory seemed increasingly unlikely. Tactica retreat, he ordered, magical energy gathering around his team. This isn't over, Wolf. Lord Phoenix doesn't tolerate threats in his territory. This isn't his territory, Amara replied evenly. And the boy made no threats, he only defended himself. The leader's eyes narrowed. Semantics won't save him when the hunting parties arrive. The old families remember what alphas did during the war. With those ominous words, the devils vanished in flashes of crimson light, leaving behind only the scent of brimstone and the heavy implication of worse to come. Silence fell over the shrine clearing, broken only by their collective breathing and the distant call of birds returning after the disturbance. Issei sagged against a stone lantern, the adrenaline fading and leaving exhaustion in its wake. The wound in his side had already closed, leaving only torn clothing and drying blood as evidence of the injury. Kuroka turned to her sister, uncertainty replacing her usual confidence. Sharon. Don't, Koneko interrupted, her voice small but firm. Don't pretend you came back for me. Quote, I've been looking for you for years, Kuroka insisted. Ever since I learned you'd survived. Kaneko's expression remained closed, years of abandonment creating a wall between them. Why now? Why here? I sensed unusual power in this area, Kuroka admitted. I didn't know it was a werewolf awakening. I thought, she trailed off, uncharacteristically hesitant. I thought it might be you. Coming into your full powers. The sisters stared at each other, years of separation condensed into a single weighted moment. Whatever Koneko might have said was interrupted by Amara clearing her throat. Touching as this reunion is, the elder werewolf said, we have more immediate concerns. That devil was right about one thing, hunting parties will come. He awakening of a Moonfang Alpha will draw attention from every supernatural faction. What did he mean about what Alphas did during the war? Issei asked, the ominous statement lingering in his mind. Amara's expression grew troubled. A story for another time. For now, we need to secure this location and begin your training immediately. You have 3 days until the blood moon forces your full transformation. If you can't control it by then, you'll be at the mercy of whoever finds you first. Koneko glanced between them, conflicted. Her gaze lingered on Issei's transformed state, recognition dawning. You're the strange smell at school. A werewolf. Apparently, Issei replied with a weak attempt at humor. Found out about 20 minutes before you arrived. An alpha, Kuroka corrected, studying him with new interest. The last of the royal bloodline, if the old wolf is to be believed. Quite the discovery in our little backwater town. Kaneko's expression hardened. I should return to the Grimoire household. Rias will wonder where I am. Grimoire, Amara repeated sharply. Sears's Lucifer's sister. Koneko nodded once, the movement barely perceptible. You live with devil nobility? Issei asked, surprised. Rias took me in after. Kaneko's eyes flicked briefly to Kuroka. After I was alone. The implication hung heavily between the sisters. Kuroka's usual playfulness dimmed, genuine regret visible for a moment before her sardonic mask returned. How fortunate that my little sister found such prestigious caretakers, she said, though her tone suggested she found it anything but fortunate. Amara tapped her staff against the stone steps, reclaiming their attention. The Grimoire family has a reputation for treating their servants well, she acknowledged. But they're still devils, with devil interests. If they learn of Issei's awakening, they already suspect something, Koneko interrupted. That's why those devils were following me. Rias sensed a POW fluctuation in her territory this morning. Issei ran a hand through his hair, trying to process everything. So devils control the town. And they're hunting werewolves. And you, he looked at Koneko, live with their leader's sister. Quote, the supernatural world is complex, Amara said with significant understatement. Different factions control different territories. Kuo town falls under devil jurisdiction. Specifically the Grimoire and Citri families. They generally ignore minor supernatural presences, but an alpha werewolf exceeds their tolerance threshold. Great, Issei muttered. So I'm a walking treaty violation. Only if you cause trouble, Kuroka pointed out. Which, given your bloodline, seems inevitable. Despite everything, Issei found himself smiling at her blunt assessment. There was something refreshing about Kuroka's lack of pretense, even if her constant reminders of his supposedly significant bloodline increased the pressure he already felt. I should go, Koneko said again. Though she made no move to leave, her eyes kept returning to her sister despite her obvious attempt to maintain emotional distance. Stay, Kuroka said suddenly, the request lacking her usual playfulness. Just for a while, we should talk, Sharon. Koneko hesitated, years of hurt warring with the undeniable pull of family. Rias will send search parties if I don't return. Text her, Issei suggested. Tell her you're studying with classmates or something. Both sisters looked at him as if he'd suggested something radical. Then, slowly, Koneko withdrew a phone from her pocket and typed a brief message. 1 hour, she said, the concession clearly difficult. Then I need to return. Amara nodded approvingly. Good. We all need to discuss what happens next. The awakening of an alpha werewolf changes the balance of power in this region, especially one of the Moonfang bloodline. You keep saying that like it's supposed to mean something to me, Issei said, frustration bleeding into his voice. I don't know anything about bloodlines or supernatural politics. Yesterday I was just a normal high school student. No, Amara corrected gently. Yesterday you were a werewolf who didn't know what he was. There's a difference. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the ancient shrine, Issei realized how profoundly his life had changed in a single day. The normal existence he'd taken for granted had been an illusion, a temporary shelter from a world far more complex and dangerous than he'd imagined. Looking at the unlikely gathering, an ancient werewolf elder, 2 Nekomata sisters reuniting after years of separation, and himself, apparently the last of some royal werewolf bloodline, he felt both overwhelmed and strangely at home. For the first time in days, the restlessness that had plagued him eased, as if some part of him recognized these supernatural beings as kin in a way his human classmates had never been. So, he said finally, where do we start? Amara's amber eyes gleamed with approval. With the most important lesson any werewolf can learn, knowing yourself. The wolf is not separate from you, it is you, in your most primal form. Accepting that is the first step toward control. As the blood moon continued its inexorable rise toward fullness, Issei Hyodo, ordinary student turned last alpha of an ancient bloodline, took his first conscious step into a world hidden beneath the veneer of human civilization. A world where the monsters of legend walked in human skin, where ancient treaties governed supernatural territories. And where a 17-year-old werewolf might tip the balance of power that had held for centuries. The hunt had begun. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, The Alpha's Awakening. Dawn broke over Kuo town, painting the sky in watercolor hues of amber and rose. Issei sat cross-legged on the worn stones of the abandoned shrine, eyes closed, listening to the symphony of his own heartbeat. ACH pulse resonated through his transformed body, stronger, steadier than its human counterpart. 3 hours he'd maintained this partial shift, claws extended and senses heightened, while Amara circled him with critical eyes. Your control improves, she noted, tapping her staff against her, still fighting the transformation instead of embracing it. It doesn't feel natural yet, Issei admitted, flexing fingers that ended in deadly points. Like wearing someone else's skin. Not someone else's, Amara corrected. Your own true skin, hidden until now. The concept remained difficult to accept. Despite the evidence of his own transformed body. 2 days had passed since his first change. 2 days of intensive training, history lessons, and paradigm shifts that left his former life feeling like a half-forgotten dream. Again, Amara instructed. Full shift this time. Issei suppressed a groan. The partial transformation had become manageable. Claws, fangs, enhanced senses, but the compel. Each shift into wolf form remained elusive and painful. Each attempt left him writhing on the ground, caught between shapes like a poorly developed photograph. The blood moon rises tomorrow night, Amara reminded him, her tone softening slightly. When it does, the change will come whether you're prepared or not. Better to master it now, on your terms. Nodding grimly, Issei closed his eyes and reached for the wild energy coiled at his core. The wolf within stirred, eager yet cautious, as if evaluating his worthiness to access its power. The sensation reminded him of approaching a wary animal, move too quickly and it retreats. Too hesitantly and it attacks. This time, he neither rushed nor hesitated. He simply surrendered. Pain lanced through every cell as bones shifted and reformed. Splees tore and rebuilt themselves in new configurations. His skull elongated, senses sharpening beyond human comprehension as fur erupted across his transforming body. The agony peaked in a white-hot flash, then suddenly subsided, leaving him panting on all fours. The world exploded into sensory revelation. Scents became visible as colorful trails in the air. Sounds separated into distinct layers he could focus on individually. The earth beneath his paws told stories of everyone who had walked this ground for days. "Well done," Amara said, her voice different to his wolf ears, richer with undertones he hadn't detected before. "How does it feel?" Issei attempted to respond but produced only a rumbling growl. Communication would require practice. "Don't try to speak yet," Amara advised. "First, learn to move. Your center of gravity has changed." Cautiously, Issei took a step forward, then another. His body seemed to know what to do without conscious instruction, four legs working in natural coordination. After a few tentative circuits around the shrine clearing, he broke into a run, exhilaration flooding him as he tested his new form's speed and agility. He was faster than anything human, stronger too. The forest around the shrine became a playground as he leapt over fallen logs, wove between trees, and scaled rocky outcroppings with effortless grace. For the first time since his awakening, the change felt right, not an alien transformation but a homecoming. A familiar scent caught his attention, wild and feline, approaching the shrine. Kuroka. Without conscious thought, he changed direction, racing back toward the clearing. The black-haired Nekomata leaned against the torii gate, observing his return with amused interest. "Looks like our puppy finally found his paws," she remarked to Amara. "And quite the impressive specimen he makes." Only then did Issei realize how he must appear. According to Amara, alphas were significantly larger than ordinary wolves. Judging by Kuroka's raised eyebrows, he was substantial even by alpha standards. "The Moonfang bloodline runs true in him," Amara confirmed. Larger than his father was at first transformation. Issei focused on shifting back, finding the return to human form smoother than the initial transformation. Within moments, he stood upright again, noting with relief that his clothes had somehow survived the process intact. "I don't understand how my clothes transform with me," he said, examining his unripped jeans. "Magical adaptation," Amara explained. "Your aura extends to what you consider part of yourself. With practice, you can extend it to weapons and other items." Kuroka clapped slowly. "Fascinating lycanthropy lecture, but I didn't come for Werewolf 101. She straightened, her playful demeanor shifting to something more serious. "Devils are mobilizing throughout the town. They're being subtle for now, questioning neighbors, watching your home, setting up detection barriers. They know so. Mething awakened but haven't pinpointed you specifically yet." The news sent a chill through Issei. "My parents are under observation but unharmed," Kuroka assured him. "The memory spell protecting them is still functioning. They think you're at a school training camp." Another lie added to the growing collection. Issei ran a hand through his hair, guilt mingling with relief. "How do you know all this?" Kuroka's smile turned enigmatic. "I have my ways of remaining undetected. Senjutsu has its advantages." "Did you see Sharon?" Amara asked, using Kaneko's true name. Something vulnerable flickered across Kuroka's face before her casual mask returned. "Glimpsed her at the Grimoire estate. She seems well enough." The hesitation spoke volumes about unresolved feelings. "She's avoiding the devil patrols, which suggests she hasn't reported your existence." That surprised Issei. "Why would she protect me? We barely know each other." "Perhaps she sees something worth protecting," Amara suggested, her ancient eyes thoughtful. "Or perhaps she simply dislikes devils interfering in neutral territories." Kuroka stretched languidly, her two tails swaying behind her. "Speaking of territories, we have a visitor approaching from the north. Non-devil, non-human, powerful." All three turned toward the forest edge as a figure emerged from the morning mist. A woman of ethereal beauty glided toward them, her movements unnaturally smooth, as if she floated rather than walked. Long hair the color of fresh snow cascaded over shoulders draped in pale blue silk. Her eyes, when she drew close enough to see clearly, were the crystalline blue of glacial ice. Yukina Frost, Amara greeted, inclining her head respectfully. It has been many years. Silver Wind, the woman replied, her voice musical yet carrying an undertone of winter chill. The whispers are true, then. A Moonfang Alpha walks again. Her gaze settled on Issei, assessing him with ancient eyes that belied her youthful appearance. The air temperature around them dropped noticeably. Yuki Onna, Kuroka murmured to Issei. Snow Woman, powerful yokai, rarely seen this far south. Yukina smiled thinly at the identification. And the black cat Nekomata, so far from her hunting grounds. Curious companions you keep, young Alpha. I'm Issei Hyodo, he offered, extending a hand before realizing the gesture might seem presumptuous to a being clearly older and more powerful than himself. To his surprise, Yukina accepted the handshake, her touch cold but not uncomfortable. Direct, isn't he? She remarked to Amara, refreshing. After centuries of supernatural politics. Why have you come, Frost-sama? Amara asked, formality suggesting Yukina's status exceeded her own. The barriers are thinning, Yukina replied. Her pleasant expression belied by the gravity in her voice. Ancient boundaries weaken. Devils sense it. Angels watch from above. The fallen gather in shadows. Her ice-blue eyes return to Issei. And into this precarious balance awakens an alpha of royal blood, the first in generations. I didn't ask for this, Issei said, growing tired of being discussed as a political complication rather than a person. Few of us ask for our birthrights, Yukina replied, surprising him with her sympathetic tone. Yet we must bear them nonetheless. Kuroka yawned theatrically. Fascinating metaphysical discussion. Meanwhile, devils are combing the town for our young wolf, and the blood moon rises tomorrow. Perhaps we might focus on immediate survival before solving supernatural border disputes. Yukina's lips curved slightly. Practical as ever Nekomata. Very well. She turned to Amara. I came to warn you. The three factions have called an emergency summit regarding the boundary weaknesses. They will be seeking someone to blame. And a Moonfang Alpha makes a convenient scapegoat, Amara concluded grimly. Indeed, particularly one untrained and unaffiliated with established supernatural hierarchies. Yukina studied Issei with unexpected intensity. Though I sense potential in this one. His aura is unusual. Before Issei could ask what that meant, a familiar scent reached him, Koneko. Approaching rapidly from the direction of town. Moments later, the white-haired girl appeared at the shrine steps, her school uniform replaced by casual clothes that allowed freer movement. Her expression, normally composed to the point of blankness, showed clear agitation. Rias knows, she announced without preamble. She's summoning her brother. The news landed like a physical blow. Even Issei, with his limited understanding of supernatural politics, recognized the implications. Sears Lucifer, one of the four Satans who ruled Devil Society, would soon be personally involved in his case. How much time do we have? Amara asked sharply. A day, maybe less. Kaneko's eyes darted to her sister, then away, their complicated relationship still unresolved. I told her as tracking unusual energy at the shrine but hadn't confirmed its source. Buying us time, Kuroka noted, uncharacteristic pride in her voice. Clever, little sister. Kaneko's expression remained neutral, though her tail, visible now that she wasn't hiding her Nekomata features, twitched slightly. I didn't do it for you. For the boy, then. Kuroka teased, glancing between Koneko and Issei with speculative amusement. A faint blush colored Kaneko's cheeks. For balance. Devils shouldn't have unlimited authority over neutral territories. Yukina observed the exchange with detached interest. The Grimoire heiress involves herself personally. Curious, she normally delegates such investigations. She sensed Issei's power signature during his first transformation, Koneko explained. Said it felt familiar somehow. All eyes turned to Issei, who raised his hands defensively. I've never met any devils before this week. At least, not that I know of. Memory seals work both ways, Amara reminded him. Your past before the adoption remains hidden, even from you. The implication that he might have pre-existing connections to the supernatural world added another layer of complexity to an already overwhelming situation. Issei ran a hand through his hair, frustration mounting. So what do we do? I can't fight the ruler of all devils. Not yet, perhaps, Amara agreed. Though with proper training, an alpha of your bloodline could challenge even a Satan. Kuroka snorted. Let's not encourage suicidal heroics. The boys barely managed his first full transformation. We have 3 options, Yukina said, her analytical tone cutting through the tension. Flee before Lucifer arrives, stand and negotiate from a position of perceived strength, or seek alternative alliance to balance devil authority. I vote for option 1, Issei said immediately. My parents would be interrogated in your absence, Amara finished gently. Devils are thorough. The thought of his adoptive parents facing supernatural questioning because of him settled like ice in Issei's stomach. They were innocent bystanders in a conflict they couldn't even comprehend. Then we negotiate, he decided, squaring his shoulders. I'll explain that I didn't choose this and don't want trouble. Kuroka laughed, the sound lacking true humor. Supernatural politics doesn't work that way, puppy. Your intentions matter less than what you represent, a potential shift in the power balance that's held for centuries. The Nekomata speaks truth, Yukina confirmed. Which leaves the third option, alliance. With whom? Issei asked, increasingly frustrated by the complexity of a world he'd only just discovered existed. The Spectral Council, Amara and Yukina said simultaneously. Kuroka visibly tensed at the name. Involving them is significant. They rarely intervene in territorial disputes. This transcends territory, Yukina replied. If the barriers truly weaken, old agreements must be reconsidered. The council would have interest regardless of the Alpha's awakening. Koneko, who had remained silent during the exchange, suddenly spoke. There's a fourth option. All attent. Ion shifted to the small white-haired Nekomata. Rias values unique abilities, she continued, her tone carefully neutral. If Issei were to join her peerage voluntarily, she would protect him from other devils, including her brother. Become a devil? Issei asked, startled by the suggestion. Absolutely not, Amara stated flatly. A Moonfang Alpha cannot be bound to devil authority. The power, incompatibility alone would be catastrophic. Kuroka studied her sister with narrowed eyes. Interesting suggestion, Sharon. Does your devil mistress collect strays so eagerly? Rias isn't like that, Koneko defended. A rare flash of emotion crossing her face. She protects what's hers. Like property, Kuroka countered sharply. Like family, Koneko insisted. The sisters stared at each other. Years of separation and divergent experiences crystallized in a single moment of fundamental disagreement. Issei felt the weight of their history, Kuroka's desperate act to protect her sister, foe. Loathed by years on the run while Koneko found shelter with the very devils her sister had defied. Perhaps, Yukina interjected coolly, we might continue this discussion while preparing for tomorrow's blood moon. Whatever course we choose, the young Alpha must survive his first full transformation with his faculties intact. The reminder of the imminent celestial event refocused their attention. Tomorrow night, regardless of devil politics or supernatural alliances, Issei would experience his first complete transformation under the blood moon's influence. According to Amara, the experience would either solidify his control over his werewolf nature or leave him vulnerable to feral instincts that could dominate his human consciousness. The Lady of Frost is right, Amara agreed. Politics can wait, training cannot. With that declaration, Issei's most grueling day of preparation began. Hours blurred together in a punishing regimen designed to test both his physical capabilities and mental discipline. Amara pushed him through transformation after transformation, each shift becoming marginally easier as his body adapted to its dual nature. Kuroka, surprisingly, contributed to his training as well. Her mastery of senjutsu, the manipulation of life energy, provided insights into controlling the wild power that surged through him during transformation. Feel the energy pathways, she instructed, circling him as he struggled to maintain his wolf form while performing complex maneuvers. Your Kai flows differently in each form, but the core remains constant. Find that center and you'll maintain awareness regardless of shape. Even Koneko, despite her continued wariness, offered practical advice from her own experience controlling supernatural abilities. Emotion triggers transformation, she noted during one particularly difficult exercise. But emotion can also disrupt control. Find a focal point, something that anchors your humanity. Throughout the intense training, Yukina observed with analytical detachment, occasionally offering cryptic commentary that suggested she knew more about werewolves than she revealed. Her presence itself was puzzling. Why would a Yuki, Onna of evident status, interest herself in a newly awakened werewolf? By late afternoon, exhaustion dragged at Issei's limbs. He collapsed onto the shrine steps, muscles trembling from exertion. Despite his enhanced stamina, the constant shifting between forms had drained him completely. Rest, Amara advised, her tone gentler than it had been all day. You've progressed remarkably for one so newly awakened. Not fat enough, Issei muttered, frustrated by the limitations of his inexperience. If this Lucifer shows up tomorrow, then we'll handle it, Amara assured him. You are not alone in this, Issei Hyodo. The simple statement affected him more deeply than expected. Since his transformation, everything had changed. His identity, his understanding of the world, his place within it. Yet here, among these supernatural beings who owed him nothing, he'd found unexpected support. Kuroka approached, offering a water bottle with uncharacteristic thoughtfulness. Drink. Transformation dehydrates. As Issei accepted the water gratefully, a distant howl echoed through the forest, too wild to be human, too structured to be animal. Everyone tensed, heads turning toward the sound. Werewolves, Amara confirmed, her expression darkening. Not of our pack. I thought you said werewolves were nearly extinct, Issei said, suddenly alert despite his fatigue. Nearly, not entirely, Amara corrected. Small packs survive in hidden places. That howl carries purpose. They've detected your awakening. Friendly, Issei asked hopefully. Amara's hesitation answered before her words did. Uncertain. Surviving werewolves have learned caution through persecution. Some might welcome an alpha's return. Others might see you as a threat to the fragile peace they've negotiated. Perfect, Issei muttered. More complications. Kuroka's ears twitched as she focused on distant sounds. 3 distinct scent signatures approaching from the northwest. Moving quickly but not aggressively. Yukina rose gracefully from where she'd been seated. I believe my presence may complicate matters unnecessarily. Wolves are naturally wary of ice yokai. You're leaving? Issei asked, surprised by the disappointment he felt. Despite her reserved manner, Yukina's presence had been reassuringly calm amid the chaos. Temporarily, she clarified, I have preparations to make before tomorrow's events. The blood moon affects all supernatural beings, not only werewolves. Her ice-blue eyes held his for a moment longer than necessary. You show promise, young Alpha. Remember that power comes in many forms, not all of them obvious. Quote, with that enigmatic advice, she departed, seeming to dissolve into the afternoon mist rather than simply walking away. Dramatic exit, Kuroka commented dryly. Ice yokai and their theatrics. Koneko gave her sister a flat look. Says the Nekomata who teleports in swirls of black smoke. The unexpected jab, the closest thing to humor Koneko had displayed, startled a laugh from Issei. Even Kuroka seemed pleased by her sister's momentary thought, grinning broadly despite being the target of the comment. The brief levity evaporated as 3 figures emerged from the tree line. 2 men and a woman approached cautiously, their human appearances belied by the predatory grace of their movements. All 3 showed subtle signs of partial transformation, elongated canines, amber-flecked eyes. Fingernails just slightly too sharp to be natural. Silver Wind, the foremost man acknowledged, inclining his head respectfully toward Amara. Tall and broad-shouldered, Ed with nut-brown skin and close-cropped dark hair, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a leader. The rumors are true, then. Blackthorn, Amara returned evenly. You're far from your territory. All territories grow uncertain these days. His gaze shifted to Issei, assessing and wary. This is the Moonfang heir. Before Amara could answer, Issei stepped forward. I'm Issei Hyodo, he said firmly, extending a hand as he had with Yukina. If he was going to navigate this new world, he would do it his way, directly and without pretense. Surprise flickered across Blackthorn's face, followed by something that might have been approval. He clasped Issei's hand in a grip firm enough to crush ordinary human bones. Kale Blackthorn, Alpha of the Eastern Shore Pack, he introduced himself. This is my sister Lyra and our beta, Darius. The woman, Lyra, studied Issei with open curiosity. Lean and athletic with the same dark complexion as her brother, She made no attempt to hide her skepticism. He's young, she observed, untested. Yet his scent carries the Moonfang signature, Darius noted. Shorter than Kale but powerfully built, with auburn hair and watchful eyes, he oved with the heightened awareness of someone accustomed to danger. Strong, too, for a new awakening. Amara stepped forward, subtly positioning herself between Issei and the newcomers. Why have you come, Blackthorn? Your pack declared neutrality after the last hunt. Something dark passed over Kale's expression. Neutrality becomes difficult when ancient boundaries fail. The old enemies grow bold again. The devil patrols, Kuroka surmised, her casual posture belied by the alertness in her eyes. Kale nodded, noticing the Nekomata sisters with interest. Devils, yes, but not only devils. Fallen angels gather in the north. Heaven's scouts observe from a distance. All drawn by the disturbances in the barrier network. And by rumors of a Moonfang Alpha awakening, Lyra added, her gaze still fixed on Issei. Which brings us back to why you're here, Amara pressed. The Eastern Shore Pack has avoided involvement in supernatural politics for decades. Kale's expression hardened. Quote, until 3 of our youngest were captured by devil hunting parties last month. Only one returned, half dead with warnings of worse to come. The news visibly shook Amara. The non-aggression pacts mean nothing anymore, Kale finished grimly. Something fundamental has changed. The 3 factions prepare for conflict while denying any such intention. His attention returned to Issei. Then we heard whispers of a royal Alpha awakening. Some see threat, we see possibility. What kind of possibility? Issei asked, sensing the conversation's shift toward the alliance Yukina had mentioned earlier. Unity, Kale stated simply. The scattered packs have survived by remaining isolated and hidden. But isolation makes us vulnerable to being picked off one by one. You want me to unite the werewolf packs, Issei realized. The weight of such responsibility staggering. I barely understand what I am. Yet you are what you are, Kale replied without sympathy. Blood speaks, Moonfang. The royal line has always possessed the power to bind packs together. Whether you embrace that birthright or reject it, others will respond to it. Kuroka, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the exchange, suddenly spoke. Fascinating wolf politics, but you're missing the immediate problem. Devils converge on this town, including Lucifer himself by tomorrow. Werewolf unity won't matter if they eliminate the young Alpha before he fully awakens. Which is partly why we're here, Lyra interjected. To offer protection until the blood moon passes. Our pack has secured a sanctuary in the mountains. Neutral ground under ancient law, respected even by devils who otherwise hunt us. The offer seemed generous, yet Issei sensed underlying currents. And after the blood moon? What then? Kale smiled slightly, the expression more evaluative than warm. Perceptive. After your awakening is complete, we would ask you to meet with other surviving pack leaders. Listen to their concerns. Consider your position in our world. No commitment beyond that, Issei pressed, surprising himself with his political instinct. For now, no, Kale confirmed. Though eventually, every Alpha must choose their path. Leadership or isolation, growth or stagnation. Amara tapped her staff thoughtfully against the stone steps. The Blackthorn pack has honored its word in my experience, she told Issei. Their sanctuary would provide security for your transformation that this shrine cannot. Issei weighed the option carefully. The logical choice seemed clear. Accept protection from experienced wolves during his vulnerable first blood moon transformation. Yet something held him back, an instinct not fully formed but insistent. I appreciate the offer, he said finally, but I need to stay near my home territory, at least for now. My parents remain here, unprotected and unaware. Kale's expression shifted to one of genuine surprise. You prioritize human parents over your own survival. They raised me, Issei replied simply. They're my family. A tense silence followed his declaration. Lyra and Darius exchanged glances that suggested they found his reasoning incomprehensible. Kale studied him with renewed interest. Unusual priorities for an Alpha, Kale noted, neither approving nor condemning. Though perhaps that's what makes you Moonfang rather than merely werewolf. He turned to Amara. We'll respect his decision, but offer compromise. We'll extend our protection to this shrine for the blood moon. Afterward, he reconsiders our invitation. Amara looked to Issei, clearly indicating the choice was his. The deference surprised him, another sign of the status his bloodline apparently carried in this world he was still discovering. Agreed, Issei decided, and thank you. Kale nodded once, then turned to his companions. Lyra, return to the pack and bring what we'll need for tomorrow night. Darius, establish a perimeter and identify potential threats. He glanced at the Nekomata sisters. Will you remain as well? Kuroka stretched languidly. I go where interests me. Currently, that's here. Koneko hesitated, conflict evident in her expression. I should return to Rias. My absence already raises questions. Go, Amara advised gently. Your position within the Grimoire household provides valuable information. Better to maintain that connection than compromise it. The wisdom of this practical approach was undeniable, yet Issei felt unexpected disappointment at Kaneko's departure. Despite her reserved demeanor, her presence had become comfortingly familiar amid the chaos of his new existence. As if sensing his thoughts, Kaneko's eyes met his briefly. I'll return before moonrise tomorrow, she promised quietly. Devils are not the simp. The commitment carried weight beyond its words, an alliance declared despite her existing loyalties. Even Kuroka seemed surprised by her sister's declaration, though she masked it quickly behind her usual sardonic smile. With arrangements made, the group dispersed to their various tasks. Kale and Darius departed to secure the area, while Lyra returned to their pack's temporary base. Koneko left for the Grimoire estate after a stilted farewell to her sister, their relationship still fraught with unresolved history but showing microscopic signs of thaw. As evening shadows lengthened across the shrine grounds, Issei found himself alone with Amara and Kuroka. The elderly werewolf seemed lost in thought, her ancient eyes focused on distant horizons visible only to her, while Kuroka lounged atop a stone lantern with feline disregard for proper seating. You're being courted by multiple factions, Kuroka observed, breaking the contemplative silence. Quite the popular puppy. Not by choice, Issei sighed. Fatigue from the day's training settling into his bones. 24 hours ago, I was worried about math homework. Now supernatural politics, blood moons, and werewolf diplomacy. Welcome to the hidden world. Kuroka replied without sympathy. Been swimming in these waters since birth, and let me tell you, sharks everywhere. Why are you helping me? Issei asked suddenly. You barely know me. This isn't your fight. Kuroka's golden eyes studied him with uncharacteristic seriousness. Let's call it insurance. A Moonfang Alpha might be useful someday, especially one who owes me favors. The mercenary explanation rang partially true but incomplete. Before Issei could press further, Amara rejoined the conversation. You should return home tonight, she advised. Maintain appearances. Your parents will worry otherwise, and drawing attention to your absence serves no one. The suggestion startled him. Is that safe? With devil patrols searching for me. Safer than staying away, Amara countered. Devils monitor your home already. Your absence would confirm their suspicions and potentially endanger your parents directly. Return, act normally, sleep in your own bed. And if they find me there? They won't, Kuroka interjected. Not with proper precautions. She slid gracefully from her perch, approaching with unusual purposefulness. I can mask your supernatural signature temporarily. A basic application of senjutsu. You'd do that? Issei asked, surprised by the offer. Something flickered behind Kuroka's golden eyes, an emotion quickly suppressed. Consider it investment in future returns. She placed a hand on his chest, directly over his heart. Hold still. This requires precision. Warmth spread from her touch, flowing through his body like honey. The sensation wasn't unpleasant, though distinctly strange, as if something essential was being gently muffled beneath layers of silk. His enhanced senses dulled slightly, the wolf within quietened. To a distant presence rather than the constant companion it had become. There, Kuroka said, withdrawing her hand. Temporary dampening of your supernatural aura. You'll appear human to cursory magical detection. Won't fool direct examination, but should bypass patrol sweeps. How long will it last? Issei asked, feeling oddly vulnerable with his werewolf nature suppressed. Until dawn, Kuroka replied. Long enough for one night's sleep in your own bed. After that, you'd better be back here preparing for tomorrow's moon. The temporary return to normalcy, even illusory normalcy, appealed more than Issei wanted to admit. Despite the exhilaration of discovering his true nature, part of him craved the simplicity of his human life. One last night in that world before fully committing to this one. "Thank you," he said sincerely. Kuroka waved away his gratitude with characteristic nonchalance, though something in her expression suggested the gesture meant more than she let on. "Just be back by sunrise, puppy. The real challenges begin tomorrow." With directions to avoid main roads and instructions on how to mask his presence from casual observation, Issei departed the shrine as twilight deepened into true night. The journey home through back alleys and wooded shortcuts felt surreal, a covert operation through the town he'd lived in his entire life. Twice he spotted devil paw trolls, individuals with the same otherworldly aura as his attackers at the shrine, moving with purpose through residential areas. Each time, he froze in shadow, heart pounding until they passed. Kuroka's senjutsu masking held, allowing him to slip past supernatural detection that would otherwise have exposed him immediately. His family home appeared blessedly normal when he finally reached it, TS glowing warmly behind familiar curtains, his mother's prized hydrangeas nodding beside the front walk. Nothing to suggest that supernatural forces converged around it or that its adoptive son had transformed into something from legend. "I'm home," he called, stepping through the front door with forced casualness. His parents looked up from the living room couch where they'd been watching television. Their expressions warming with ordinary parental affection. No recognition of his otherworldly nature, no fear of the predator their son had become. The memory spell Amara had mentioned clearly remained intact. How was the study group? His mother asked, the false memory Amara had implanted providing convenient cover. "Productive," Issei replied, the half-truth sticking in his throat. "We covered a lot of material." His father nodded approvingly. "Good to see you taking initiative with your studies. University entrance exams will be here before you know it." The mundane concern struck Issei as both touching and absurd. University seemed a lifetime away now, a human concern that barely registered against the supernatural complexities he faced. Yet his parents' simple pride in his fictitious academic diligence touched something deep within him, a reminder of what he fought to protect. "I'm pretty tired," he said, managing a convincing yawn. "Think I'll turn in early?" "Of course, dear," his mother replied. "There's leftovers in the fridge if you get hungry." The normalcy of the exchange, its utter disconnection from the reality of his situation, left Issei feeling both comforted and isolated as he climbed the stairs to his bedroom. These people who had raised him, loved him unconditionally, remained completely unaware of his true nature or the dangers gathering around them because of it. His bedroom remained exactly as he'd left it days ago, school books stacked haphazardly on his desk, laundry spilling from the hamper, walls decorated with posters of bands and movies he'd enjoyed in what now felt like someone else's life. He sank onto his bed, the familiar comfort of his own mattress highlighting just how exhausted he truly was. Despite his intention to savor this brief return to normalcy, sleep claimed him almost immediately, dragging him into dreams filled with running wolves, blood-red moons, and golden feline eyes watching from shadows. Morning ved with jarring abruptness as Issei bolted upright, heart racing from dreams he couldn't quite remember. Sunlight streamed through his bedroom window, indicating he'd slept later than intended. The clock confirmed his fear, nearly 9. Well past when he should have returned to the shrine. As he scrambled to dress, he noticed something odd, a folded paper that had been slipped under his door sometime during the night. Opening it revealed elegant handwriting he didn't recognize. "Devil patrol increased around your home. Wait for escort at the corner market. K***, K for Kuroka," he assumed, both surprised and touched by the Nekomata's continued assistance. The note indicated she'd been watching his house overnight, protection he hadn't expected from someone who insisted their relationship was merely transactional. Moving quietly to avoid waking his parents, Issei slipped from the house and made his way to the specified meeting point. The neighborhood appeared normal in morning sunlight. His partially suppressed senses detected subtle wrongness. Too many strangers lingering on street corners, unusual magical signatures disrupting the ambient energy. The corner market stood quiet in mid-morning lull. No sign of his supposed escort. Issei browsed magazine racks while watching the street through plate glass windows, increasingly anxious as minutes passed without contact. "Your situational awareness needs work," said a voice directly behind him. Issei spun to find Koneko standing there, her small form dressed in casual weekend clothes rather than her school uniform. Without her usual blank expression, she looked younger, more vulnerable somehow. "Koneko," he greeted, surprised by how genuinely pleased he felt to see her. "I was expecting your sister. Kuroka's creating a diversion on the east side," she explained, her voice characteristically soft but lacking its usual emotional flatness. "Devil patrols tripled overnight. Rias received orders to bring you in for questioning if found." The news confirmed his fears. "But she doesn't know exactly who they're looking for yet." "No, just unusual energy signatures centered around your neighborhood and the shrine." Koneko glanced toward the door. "We should move. I can mask our exit, but the effect is temporary." Without further explanation, she took his hand. The unexpected contact sent a jolt through him. Had nothing to do with supernatural energy. Her small fingers felt surprisingly strong as they closed around his. "Stay close," she instructed. "I'm bending perception around us. People will see us but won't register our presence consciously." True to her word, they walked out of the store and down crowded sidewalks without drawing attention. Pedestrians automatically moved around them without seeming to notice them specifically. Even a devil patrol, two formally dressed men with subtle magical signatures, looked directly at them without recognition. "Senjutsu," Issei guessed quietly as Hei turned onto a less populated side street. "Like what Kuroka did to mask my aura last night." Koneko nodded, a flicker of emotion, pride, resentment, crossing her face at the comparison to her sister. "Basic application. I'm not as skilled as Kuroka." "Seems pretty effective to me," Issei offered, earning a glance that might have contained a hint of appreciation. They traveled in companionable silence, taking a circuitous route that avoided main thoroughfares while steadily moving toward the forested outskirts where the shrine waited. Despite the circumstances, Issei found himself appreciating Kaneko's quiet company, her presence simultaneously calming and intriguing. "Your sister said you'd be with Rias today," he ventured after several blocks. "I told Rias I needed personal time," Koneko replied, eyes forward. She respects boundaries. The simple statement revealed volumes about her relationship with the devil heiress, trust and consideration that contradicted Kuroka's implications of ownership or control. Issei filed the information away, forming his own impressions rather than adopting either sister's perspective. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, echoing the question he'd posed to Kuroka the previous evening. Koneko continued walking for several steps before answering, her expression thoughtful. "Balance," she said finally. "Devils shouldn't have unchecked authority over neutral territories." And she trailed off, leaving the sentence incomplete. When she didn't continue, Issei prompted gently, and her pale cheeks colored slightly. "You smell right, trustworthy." It's hard to explain. The admission clearly cost her something in vulnerability. Before Issei could respond, she stiffened, head turning sharply toward a side street they'd just passed. "Devil signature," she murmured. "Strong one. Not patrol level." Issei extended his senses, finding his werewolf perception strengthening as Kuroka's suppression spell faded with distance from town. The magical presence Koneko had detected registered clearly now, powerful and approaching rapidly. "Run," he suggested. Koneko shook her head. "Too late. They've detected us." As if summoned by her words, a magical circle flared to life on the pavement before them, crimson sigils arranging themselves in complex patterns. From its center rose a figure that radiated power beyond anything Issei had encountered since his awakening. The man who materialized appeared surprisingly young, perhaps early 20s, with crimson hair and aristocratic features. His casual attire, jeans and a simple but toned-down shirt, belied the overwhelming magical presence he projected. Eyes the same shade as his hair studied them with penetrating intelligence. "Koneko," he greeted, his voice pleasant but carrying unmistakable authority. "Interesting company you're keeping today." The small Nekomata tensed beside Issei but showed no fear. "Sears-sama," she acknowledged formally. "I didn't expect you until tonight." Sears Lucifer, one of the four rulers of the underworld, smiled slightly. Concerned reports from my sister tend to accelerate my schedules. His attention shifted fully to Issei, assessment in his gaze. And you must be the anomaly everyone's so excited about. Younger than I expected. Instinct urged Issei to transform, to meet this obvious predator with fangs and claws rather than human vulnerability. He suppressed the impulse, recognizing that hostility would only confirm any negative assumptions about werewolves. Issei Hyodo, he introduced himself instead, offering a respectful bow that acknowledged the devil's status without suggesting submission. I'm not looking for trouble. Something like approval flickered in Sirzek's expression. Few ever are, yet trouble seems to find them nonetheless. He glanced between Issei and Koneko, noting their proximity with interest. Particularly when royal bloodlines awaken after generations of dormancy. The casual confirma, Chion that Sirzek knew exactly what Issei was, not just a werewolf but a Moonfang Alpha, eliminate any hope of playing ignorant. I only discovered what I am 3 days ago, Issei said truthfully. I'm still learning to control it. Under Silverwind's tutelage, I presume, Sirzek noted. An interesting choice of mentor. Amara hasn't involved herself in supernatural politics since the Treaty of Seven Moons. The devil's knowledge of werewolf history and customs surprised Issei, suggesting deeper understanding than mere political awareness. She found me when I first transformed, Issei explained, careful to keep his tone respectful without becoming deferential. She's been helping me understand what's happening. Sirzek nodded thoughtfully, and tonight's blood moon will complete your awakening. Hence the increased activity around your territory. The statement wasn't a question, but Issei nodded confirmation anyway. I don't intend any disruption to existing agreements. I want to understand my nature and protect my family. Noble sentiments, Sirzek acknowledged. Though intentions matter less than consequences in our world. He turned slightly to address Koneko. Does my sister know you're escorting potential treaty violations through her territory? Though phrased lightly, the question carried weight. Koneko met the Devil King's gaze directly, her small foe. Somehow not diminished by his overwhelming presence. Rias values justice above politics, she replied quietly. Persecuting someone for existing contradicts her principles. A genuine smile softened Sirzek's features. Well said. My sister's compassion remains her greatest strength. He returned his attention to Issei. Which brings us to our current dilemma. Protocol demands I detain you for questioning. Personal inclination suggests that might be unnecessarily provocative given tonight's celestial event. The implied choice hung between them, surrender voluntarily for devil interrogation or face forced compliance. Neither option appealed to Issei, yet direct resistance against a being of Sirzek's power seemed suicidal. Before he could respond, another magical circle flared to Li Fei beside them, this one ice blue rather than crimson. From it emerged Yukina Frost, her ethereal beauty unchanged but her demeanor markedly more formal than during their previous meeting. Lucifer, she greeted, inclining her head with precise diplomatic courtesy. The spectral council sends greetings. Surprise flickered across Sirzek's face before smooth political composure returned. Lady Frost, the council involves itself directly. Unusual for territorial matters. This transcends territory, Yukina replied, echoing her words from the previous day. The council claims jurisdiction under the Covenant of Shared Borders. Article 7. Whatever this meant clearly carried significant political weight. Sirzek's expression shifted to one of careful neutrality. The covenant applies only to boundary breaches affecting multiple realms. Precisely, Yukina agreed, her tone suggesting checkmate in a game Issei couldn't fully follow. The young Alpha's awakening coincides with Dakyum. Ended barrier fluctuations across 17 territories. Causation remains undetermined, but correlation places this under council purview pending investigation. The diplomatic exchange continued in similar fashion. Precise terminology and treaty references that meant little to Issei but clearly represented high-level supernatural negotiations. Throughout, Koneko remained silent beside him, though her posture gradually relaxed as the conversation progressed in Yukina's favor. Finally, Sirzek nodded with apparent reluctance. The council's claim has merit under existing agreements. All deaf to their jurisdiction for 72 hours, pending review by the Underworld Diplomatic Corps. The council appreciates your cooperation, Yukina replied formally, though something like victory gleamed in her ice-blue eyes. Full findings will be shared with all three factions once investigation concludes. With negotiations apparently concluded, Issei turned once more to Issei. It seems you've attracted powerful advocates. Young wolf. A fortunate circumstance. His tone sharpened slightly. Remember, however, that advocate is not synonymous with ally. Everyone has agendas in our world. The warning, delivered without hostility, struck Issei as genuinely well-intentioned, one predator offering professional courtesy to another. He nodded acknowledgement, unsure how else to respond. To diplomatic advice from a supernatural king. Koneko, Issei continued, Rias expects your return by midday. She worries for your safety. I'll return soon, Koneko promised, though something in her tone suggested she intended to complete Issei's escort first. With a final assessing look at their unlikely gathering, Issei inclined his head in formal farewell and vanished in a flare of crimson magic, leaving behind only the scent of power and a faint impression of brimstone. For several heartbeats, no one spoke. Then Yukina turned to them, her formal diplomatic demeanor softening slightly. We should continue to the shrine. That authorization buys time, but devil patrols may still interfere if given opportunity. What just happened? Issei asked, struggling to process the political maneuvering he'd witnessed. I invoked spectral council authority to supersede devil jurisdiction, Yukina explained as they resumed walking, now at a more urgent pace. A temporary measure, but sufficient to protect you through tonight's blood moon. Why would the council intervene for me specifically? Issei pressed, recalling Issei's warning about agendas. Yukina's ice blue eyes held his for a moment before she answered. The council maintains balance between supernatural factions. Your emergence potentially disrupts that balance. Better to study the disruption than allow hasty elimination. The explanation made political sense but felt incomplete. Before Issei could probe further, they emerged from residential streets into the forested outskirts where the shrine waited. The relative safety of its neutral ground beckoned after the tense encounter with devil royalty. As they approached, Issei detected multiple supernatural signatures gathered at the shrine, Amara's familiar presence, Kuroka's distinctive energy, and the three werewolves from the Blackthorn pack. All appeared to be engaged in urgent preparation, their movements purposeful as they arranged various items around the shrine grounds. They're establishing a containment perimeter, Yukina explained, noting his curiosity. Blood moon transformations can be volatile, even for experienced werewolves. For a first transformation of royal bloodline, precautions are essential. The reminder of tonight's celestial event sent a shiver of anticipation through Issei, part fear, part exhilaration. What if he'd experienced in his previous transformations would pale compared to what awaited under the blood moon's influence. According to Amara, the experience would either solidify his control over his werewolf nature or leave him at the mercy of feral instincts that could dominate his human consciousness. Kuroka spotted their approach first, materializing beside them with typical feline suddenness. Cutting it close, puppy, she chided. Though her golden eyes showed genuine relief at his safe return. Thought I might need to stage a rescue. We encountered Lucifer, Koneko stated quietly. Oka's playful demeanor vanished instantly. And yet you still walk free. Interesting. Her gaze shifted to Yukina. Council intervention. The Yuki Onna nodded once. Temporary jurisdiction claim under the covenant. Clever, Kuroka acknowledged. Though the council rarely acts without calculation. What's their interest in our young wolf? Same as yours, I imagine, Yukina replied with delicate emphasis on yours, that made Kuroka's eyes narrow slightly. Potential value. The subtle tension between them intrigued Issei, suggesting history or knowledge beyond the immediate situation. Before he could ponder it further, Amara approached, her expression grave. You've returned just in time, she said without preamble. The blood moon rises in 8 hours. We must complete your preparation immediately. The urgency in her tone brooked no argument. As Issei followed her toward the center of the shrine clearing, where elaborate preparations were underway, he glanced back at Koneko, who had remained beside her sister. Thank you, he said simply. For the escort, and for standing with me against Lucifer. Something softened in her usually guarded expression. I'll return before moonrise, she promised again. The commitment carrying more weight now that he understood the political complications it presented for her. With a final nod of acknowledgement, Issei turned to face the shrine and the final preparations for his blood moon transformation. The day stretched before him, likely the last day he would experience as the person he had been. By tomorrow, whatever emerged from the blood moon's influence would be irrevocably changed. The hunt continued, the stakes higher than ever. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Shattered Bonds. The blood moon hung heavy in the night sky, its crimson light casting the world in shades of rust and shadow. Beneath its baleful gaze, Issei Hyodo, last alpha of the Moonfang bloodline, howled his agony to the stars. Pain unlike anything he'd express. Ariansed seared through every cell as the blood moon's influence triggered his full transformation. Previous shifts had been challenging but controlled. This was cataclysmic, primal force tearing him apart and rebuilding him molecule by molecule. His bones broke and reformed, muscle tore and knit, skin stretched and sprouted dense silver-white fur that gleamed like moonlit snow. Through it all, Ara's voice anchored him to sanity. Remember who you are. The wolf is not separate. It is you in your most essential form. The transformation peaked in blinding agony, then suddenly subsided. Where Issei had stood now crouched a massive wolf, larger than any natural species, with silver-white fur and eyes that burned amber in the darkness. Power radiated from him in palpable waves, causing the Ara around his form to shimmer with supernatural energy. Magnificent, Kale Blackthorn murmured, his own partial transformation lending him wolf-like features as he observed from a respectful distance. The bloodline runs true. Around the shrine clearing, others maintained a wary perimeter. Lyra and Darius of the Blackthorn pack, partially shifted and alert. Kuroka perched atop the shrine roof, golden eyes gleaming with interest. Yukina Frost standing serene and watchful beside the Torii gate, and Koneko, who had returned as promised, her small form tensed as if ready to intervene should Issei lose control. For a breathless moment, no one moved. The newly transformed Alpha stood motionless, head lowered, muscles rippling beneath silver fur as he adjusted to his completed form. The question, on hanging and spoken in the air, had Issei's human consciousness survived the blood moon transformation, or had the wolf's instincts taken control? Amara approached cautiously, her own partial transfo. Mashin evident in elongated canines and amber-flecked eyes. Issei, she called softly. Are you with us? The massive wolf's head lifted, ears pricked forward. Recognition flickered in those intelligent amber eyes, awareness beyond mere animal consciousness. With deliberate care, he lowered his muzzle in a gesture that mimicked a human nod. Collective tension eased from the gathered supernaturals. Issei had maintained his identity through the blood moon transformation, a feat many werewolves failed to accomplish during their first full change. Well done, young Alpha, Amara praised, relief evident in her voice. Now comes the true test, maintaining that control throughout the night. The challenge proved substantial. As moonlight saturated the clearing, primal instincts surged through Issei's transformed body, urges to run, to hunt, to claim territory and assert dominance. Fighting these impulses required constant vigilance, a mental tug of war between human reason and wolf nature. Hours passed in careful exercises designed to strengthen his control. Under Amara's guidance, Issei practiced shifting between forms, full wolf to partial human wolf hybrid and back again. Each transition came easier than the last, his body adapting to its dual nature with increasing fluidity. Kuroka observed these efforts with characteristic sardonic commentary. Impressive progress for a newborn puppy, she remarked, lounging atop a stone lantern. Most new werewolves spend their first blood moon as mindless beasts, not practicing tricks. Most werewolves aren't Moonfang alphas, Kale reminded her, his tone suggesting the distinction carried significant weight. Throughout the training, Koneko remained apart, watchful but uninvolved, her emotional walls firmly in place. The contrast between the sisters was striking. Kuroka all languid grace and provocative commentary, Koneko silent and reserved, tension evident in her rigid posture. As midnight approached, Issei mastered enough co-entral to attempt communication in wolf form. Concentrating on shaping thought into coherent patterns, he directed his attention toward Amara. How long will the blood moon's effect last? The elder Werewolf's eyes widened slightly at the telepathic contact. You've achieved pack speech already. Remarkable. She glanced skyward at the crimson orb. The blood moon's peak influence will fade by dawn. though its effects will linger for days. Your transformations will come easier now, but also more urgently when emotions run high. I feel different, Issei projected, struggling to articulate. The profound changes occurring within him. More connected to everything. I can sense the life energy in the trees, the earth beneath my paws. That's senjutsu sensitivity, Kuroka interjected, suddenly attentive. Interesting. Werewolves don't typically develop that ability without specific training. Her observation drew a sharp look from Koneko, the first time the younger sister had shown direct interest in the proceedings. Something complicated passed across her usually stoic features, concern mixed with recognition. It's not unheard of in royal bloodlines, Amara countered, though her tone suggested Kuroka's observation warranted consideration. The Moonfang line has always shown unusual affinity for natural energies. Is that bad? Issei asked, sensing the undercurrents of concern. Not bad, Kuroka replied, stretching languidly. Just unusual, and potentially useful. Her golden eyes gleamed with speculation. Senjutsu allows manipulation of life force itself, both your own and others. Mastered, it's formidable. And dangerous, Koneko added quietly, her first voluntary contribution to the conversation. It can corrupt if used improperly. The statement hung heavy with personal significance. Kuroka's expression flickered briefly before her usual mask of nonchalance returned. Always the cautious one, little sister. The exchange opened a window into their fractured relationship. Wounds barely scabbed over, blame and justification intertwined with genuine concern and unresolved grief. Issei, newly sensitive to emotional undercurrents, felt the sisters' complicated history like a physical presence between them. Before he could consider how to respond, Kale Blackthorn's head snapped up, nostrils flaring as he caught a distant scent. Intruders, he growled, shifting instantly to combat readiness. Multiple signatures approaching from the north. The peaceful training session transformed instantly into battle preparation. Lyra and Darius moved to flank their alpha. Partial transformations extending claws and fangs. Kuroka slid from her perch with feline grace, purple energy already gathering around her hands. Even Koneko shifted stance, her small form radiating surprising power. Hostile, Issei asked, instinctively moving to protect the shrine, his temporary territory. Uncertain, Yukina answered, her ice-blue eyes focused on the forest edge. Powerful, but not actively projecting aggression. Moments later, the source of their concern emerged from the tree line, a woman striding purposefully into the clearing, flanked by two armored figures who radiated supernatural energy. The woman herself commanded immediate attention, tall and athletic with platinum blonde hair woven into an intricate braid. She wore contemporary clothing, dark jeans, boots, and a leather jacket, but carried herself with ancient dignity. Most strikingly, a spear of light was strapped across her back, its energy signature distinctly non-devilish. Valkyrie, Amara identified softly, tension evident in her stance. Odin's elite warriors rarely venture this far from Norse territories. The blonde woman halted at a respectful distance, assessing the gathered supernaturals with tactical precision. Her gaze lingered on Issei's wolf form, recognition and wariness mingling in her expression. I am Reyna Stormheart of the Valkyrie Order, she announced, her voice carrying the faint accent of Old Norse lands. I come seeking information, not conflict. You bring armed escort to a peaceful shrine during a sacred transformation, Kale observed, gesturing to her companions. Forgive our skepticism regarding your peaceful intentions. Reyna's expression remained impassive. The blood moon affects all supernatural territories. When combined with the awakening of a royal werewolf bloodline and recent barrier fluctuations, caution seemed prudent. What information do you seek? Issei projected, deciding direct communication might diffuse tension. Serp. Rise flickered across the Valkyrie's face at the telepathic contact. You maintain consciousness and communication during blood moon transformation. Impressive control for one newly awakened. Amara stepped forward, positioning herself subtly between Issei and the newcomers. State your purpose clearly, Valkyrie. This shrine remains neutral ground under ancient compact. I respect the compact, Reyna replied evenly. My mission concerns the deteriorating boundaries between realms. 17 confirmed breaches across multiple territories in the past month alone, an unprecedented rate of decay. This information visibly disturbed Amara, whose ancient eyes narrowed with concern. Natural deterioration or deliberate sabotage? That remains under investigation, Reina said, her gaze returning to Issei. What interests Asgard is the timing. The boundary failures accelerated precisely when this young alpha began awakening. The implication hung in the air, that Issei's emergence somehow connected to the supernatural boundary problems. He bristled instinctively, a low growl rumbling in his chest. I have nothing to do with boundary failures, he projected firmly. I didn't even know his supernatural world existed until days ago. Perhaps not consciously, Reina acknowledged. Yet correlations warrant investigation. She glanced skyward at the blood moon. Particularly given historical connections between celestial events, royal werewolf bloodlines, and interdimensional stability. Kale Blackthorn made a dismissive gesture. Ancient history and speculation. The Moonfang line hasn't been active for generations. Why would its re-emergence suddenly trigger boundary failures? That's precisely what I aim to discover, Reina replied calmly. Odin All-Father has authorized a formal investigation under the Reciprocal Information Accord of 1236. The invocation of specific supernatural treaties reminded Issei of Yukina's diplomatic maneuvers with Sears's. Politics, it seemed, operated similarly across all supernatural factions, formal agreements wielded like weapons in their own right. Amara tapped her staff against the stone flags, drawing attention. The accord grants you observational rights only. Valkyrie, you may witness the completion of the Alpha's blood moon transformation, but interrogation must wait until dawn when the sacred period concludes. Reina inclined her head in formal acknowledgement. Acceptable terms. She gestured to her companions, who moved to a respectful distance while maintaining vigilant observation. With the immediate tension reduced, training resumed. Though Issei found concentration more difficult with Asgardian observers evaluating his every move. The Valkyrie's implications troubled him, the suggestion that his awakening's somehow connected to supernatural disasters beyond his knowledge or control. As the night progressed, Issei continued practicing transformations under Amara's guidance, each shift becoming more fluid as his body adapted to its dual nature. By the third hour of the blood moon's peak, he could move between forms with minimal effort, full wolf to hybrid to human and back again, each state accessible to her focused intent rather than painful transition. Throughout these exercises, he remained peripherally aware of Kuroka and Koneko, the sisters maintaining their distance from each other while simultaneously tracking each other's movements. Their unresolved relationship hung in the air like static electricity, affecting everyone nearby with its charged potential. During a brief rest period, Issei recovered from particularly demanding transformation sequences. Reina approached with formal courtesy. May I speak with you directly? She requested, addressing both Issei and Amara. Issei, currently in hybrid form, mostly human but with wolf-like features, nodded cautiously. I'd appreciate directness after all the political maneuvering I've witnessed recently. Something like approval flickered across the Valkyrie's stern features. Honesty suits you, young Alpha. Very well. She glanced at the blood moon overhead. Are you aware of the convergence prophecies? I've heard whispers only, Amara admitted. Her ancient eyes troubled. Tales from before the Great Separation. They speak of cycles, Reina continued, her voice lowered for privacy. Periods when barriers between worlds naturally thin, allowing greater interaction between supernatural realms. According to Asgardian records, these cycles coincide with certain bloodlines awakening to their full potential. And you think I'm part of this cycle? Issei asked, the weight of cosmic significance settling uncomfortably on his shoulders. I think, Reina replied carefully, that your awakening in the boundary failures occurring simultaneously is unlikely to be coincidence. Whether your cause, effect, or simply another symptom of a larger pattern remains unclear. The conversation might have continued, but a sudden disturbance from the shrine steps interrupted, raised voices as Kuroka and Koneko finally confronted each other directly. The tension that had simmered between them all night had apparently reached boiling point. You abandoned me, Koneko accused, her normally expressionless face flushed with emotion. Left me alone with his body and fled. I killed to protect you, Kuroka countered, her usual playfulness replaced by fierce intensity. Our master was experimenting on you, draining your life force for his twisted research. What would you have had me do? Watch you die. You could have taken me with you. As a fugitive, hunted by every devil faction. Kuroka's golden eyes flashed with barely contained power. You were safer with the Grimoire girl than on the run with me. You didn't even try. Kaneko's voice cracked, years of suppressed hurt breaking through her carefully maintained facade. You just disappeared. The raw pain in her voice silenced the entire clearing. Even the Valkyrie observers seemed affected by the sisters' confrontation, recognizing the moment's emotional significance. Kuroka's defensive posture softened slightly. I watched over you when I could, she said. Uncharacteristic vulnerability in her tone. Made sure the devils treated you well. Eliminated threats before they reached you. I didn't know that, Kaneko whispered, uncertainty replacing anger. I thought you forgot about me. Never, Kuroka replied, the single word heavy with conviction. Not for a single day. The exchange revealed depths to both sisters' Thather Poo. Blick personas carefully concealed. Kuroka's carefree hedonism masking fierce protectiveness, Kaneko's emotional detachment hiding profound abandonment wounds. Two broken halves of a shattered family, each coping with trauma in opposite ways. Issei felt uncomfortably intrusive witnessing such a private moment, yet couldn't look away. Something about their fractured relationship resonated with his OWN situation. Connection severed and reformed, identity lost and rediscovered. Without conscious decision, he found himself moving toward the sisters. Sometimes, he said quietly, drawing their attention. The people who leave us think they're protecting us, even when it hurts worse than whatever they're protecting us from. Both sisters turned to him. Kuroka with guarded curiosity, Kaneko with surprise at his intervention. My birth parents gave me up, Issei continued, understanding this truth instinctively though his memories remained sealed. Hid my nature, placed me with humans, probably thinking they were saving me from something worse. I lost my heritage, my identity, my connection to what I truly am. He paused, organizing thoughts that had crystallized only as he spoke them. Quote, but I can be angry about that loss while still recognizing their intention wasn't abandonment. The parallels weren't perfect, but something in his words reached Kaneko. Her rigid posture softened fractionally, eyes downcast as she absorbed the perspective. I did what I thought necessary, Kuroka said softly, addressing her sister directly. Not what was easy, never what was easy. A fragile silence settled between them, not reconciliation, not yet, but perhaps the first crack in walls built from years of misunderstanding. Kaneko didn't respond verbally, but neither did she retreat to her emotional isolation. Progress, however minimal. The intimate moment dissolved as Kale Blackthorn suddenly tensed, head lifting as he detected something beyond human perception. Multiple magical signatures, he growled, approaching fast from all directions. The Valkyrie contingent immediately shifted to defensive positions, Reyna's hand moving to the spear strapped across her back. Devils, she confirmed, her enhanced senses apparently detecting the same threat. Significant numbers. Amara's expression hardened. This shrine is neutral ground under ancient compact. Devil forces have no authority here. I suspect they're not seeking permission, Yukina observed coolly, ice energy gathering around her hands as the temperature dropped sharply. Within moments, the shrine clearing was surrounded. Crimson magical circles flaring to life as devil forces materialized in coordinated deployment. Unlike the previous patrols Issei had encountered, these appeared military in nature, uniformed, disciplined, and radiating combat readiness. From the largest circle emerged a familiar figure, Sears Lucifer, his casual attire replaced by formal regalia befitting his status as Devil King. Beside him materialized a woman with silver hair and a stern expression, her magical signature nearly as powerful as his own. The Spectral Council's temporary jurisdiction has been revoked, Sears announced without preamble. New evidence necessitates immediate intervention. Yukina stepped forward, diplomatic formality masking obvious surprise. On what grounds does the underworld invalidate council authority? The 72-hour period remains in effect under the Covenant. Emergency provisions, Section 12, replied the silver-haired woman. Direct correlation between anomalous NRG signatures and barrier degradation constitutes imminent threat to all realms. Reyna Stormheart moved to stand beside Yukina, presenting a united front. Asgard has submitted no such evidence to support correlation claims. Asgard isn't the only realm with monitoring capabilities, Searsex replied evenly. Our sensors detected significant energy spikes coinciding with the Alpha's blood-moon transformation. Each spike preceded new boundary failures in corresponding sectors. The accusation struck Issei like a physical blow. I'm not causing anything, he projected forcefully, maintaining his hybrid form despite the urge to shift fully to combat Werewolf. I don't even understand what's happening. Your conscious intent is irrelevant, the silver-haired woman stated. The effect remains regardless. Amara's ancient eyes narrowed dangerously. You propose what action, exactly? Containment and study, Searsex replied. The young Alpha will be transported to secure Facili. Ties where his energy emissions can be properly monitored and hopefully neutralized. Imprisonment, Kale translated flatly, his pack members moving to defensive positions around Issei. On unproven allegations, tension escalated as supernatural forces squared off. Devils surrounding the shrine perimeter, werewolves, Nekomata, the Yuki-Onna, and Valkyries forming protective positions around Issei. Magic gathered in the air, charging the atmosphere with volatile potential. This can be handled peacefully, Searsex offered, though the devil forces continued their encirclement. No one seeks unnecessary conflict. Yet you bring an army to neutral ground during sacred ceremony, Amara countered, her staff tapping against stone flags with ominous finality. Your actions belie your words, Lucifer. As diplomatic exchanges deteriorated toward inevitable conflict, Issei caught a scent that didn't belong, something chemical and sharp beneath the magical signatures saturating the air. His newly enhanced senses traced it to small objects placed strategically around the shrine perimeter, devices emitting a subtle vapor that escaped notice amid the more obvious magical confrontation. Trap, he projected urgently to Amara. Something's wrong. Devices hidden around the perimeter. The elder werewolf's eyes widened slightly, her enhanced senses confirming his detection. With subtle gestures, she alerted the others to the hidden threat without alerting the devil forces. Kuroka, receiving the warning, moved casually closer to her sister while scanning the area. Her golden eyes narrowed as she identified the devices. Suppression field generators, she murmured, just loud enough for supernatural hearing. They're planning to neutralize our powers, not negotiate. The revelation transformed the standoff's dynamics. What had appeared to be legitimate, if aggressive, diplomatic intervention now revealed itself as something more sinister. Even Reyna Stormheart reassessed the situation, her warrior's instincts recognizing the tactical deployment for what it was. This violates multiple treaties, Yukina stated, her diplomatic facade hardening as temperature dropped sharply around her. The underworld court's entrapment, Searsex, expression remained impassive, though something like regret flickered in his eyes. Necessary precautions given the stakes. Barrier integrity affects all realms. You truly believe I'm responsible? Issei asked directly, switching to verbal communication while maintaining his hybrid form. Based on correlation alone, I believe investigation is warranted. Searsex replied carefully, and that containment during that investigation serves everyone's interests, including yours, young Alpha. Distrust saturated the air, supernatural INCTS recognizing deception regardless of political veneer. Issei sensed the confrontation balancing on a knife's edge. One wrong move would trigger conflict that, given the forces gathered, could devastate the surrounding area. In that tense moment, Koneko unexpectedly stepped forward. Lucifer-sama, she addressed formally, her small form somehow commanding attention despite the power gathered around her. Has Rias-sama approved this action? The question, simple yet pointed, caused visible hesitation in Searsex. My sister's authority doesn't extend to matters of realm security. But he holds jurisdiction over this territory, Koneko pressed, surprising everyone with her direct challenge to devil hierarchy. And has granted provisional sanctuary to those at this shrine. Sanctuary, the silver-haired woman repeated sharply. When was this granted? Koneko held up her phone, displaying a text message. 20 minutes ago, when I informed her of developments here. As her servant, I conveyed her concerns about treaty violations. A masterful political maneuver from the normally reticent Nekomata, invoking Rias Grimori's territorial authority as a legitimate counterbalance to Searsex's intervention. The Devil King's expression tightened, recognizing the complications introduced by his sister's involvement. "This is not a matter for inexperienced devil heiresses," the silver-haired woman stated dismissively. "Perhaps not," Graphia, Searsex replied, using the woman's name for the first time. "But proper procedure must be maintained, even in emergencies. If Rias has formally extended sanctuary." The opening was slight but sufficient. As the devil's attention focused on this procedural complication, Amara caught Issei's eye and nodded almost imperceptibly toward the forest beyond the shrine. "On my signal," she projected, her mental voice barely detectable. "We break southeast, away from their main concentration." Understanding flooded through their improvised pack bond, not surrender, but strategic retreat to more defensible position. Issei shifted weight subtly, preparing for rapid movement while maintaining an outwardly attentive posture. The diversion came from an unexpected quarter. As Searsex and Graphia debated territorial jurisdiction, one of the hidden devices suddenly froze over, encased in magical ice. Heads turned toward Yukina, but the Yuki Onna appeared equally surprised by the intervention. From the forest edge emerged a new figure, a petite girl with blue-white hair and eyes that matched Yukina's glacial blue. Where the elder Yuki Onna projected regal reserve, this newcomer radiated barely contained fury, ice crystals forming in the air around her. "Sister," Yukina acknowledged, surprise evident in her normally composed features. "The underworld deploys restricted suppression technology on neutral ground," the newcomer stated, her voice carrying despite its soft tone. "The Winter Court takes notice of this treaty violation." Her arrival introduced new complexity to the already volatile situation. The devil forces shifted uneasily, recognizing complications multiplying beyond their initial calculations. Searsex's expression remained composed, but tension showed in his stance. "Mizor Frost," he greeted formally. "The underworld acknowledges the Winter Court's concern but maintains that emergency provisions apply." "Convenient interpretations," Mizor replied coldly, "especially when deployed against an awakening alpha during Blood Moon ceremony." As diplomatic exchanges renewed with increased complexity, Amara's mental voice touched those gathered around Issei. "Now." What followed unfolded with supernatural speed. Yukina and Mizor simultaneously froze the remaining suppression devices while Reyna's Valkyries launched light spears that disrupted the devil's containment formation. Kale's pack members shifted to full wolf form, creating chaotic movement that divided devil attention. Kuroka grabbed her sister's hand, purple energy swirling around both Nekomata as she prepared transportation magic. Issei shifted to full wolf form, enhanced speed and strength ready for the breakout attempt. Amara slammed her staff against the shrine stone, triggering ancient protections that momentarily obscured the entire area with blinding light. In that confusion, their group moved as one, bursting through the southeastern perimeter where devil forces were thinnest. Issei's massive wolf form led the charge, silver-white fur gleaming in the blood moon's light as he cleared a path through startled opponents. Kale's pack flanked him protectively while Kuroka and Koneko followed, the elder Nekomata maintaining transportation magic that would activate once they cleared the disruption field. "Barrier breach in progress," called a devil commander. "Sector 7. They're breaking containment." Magic lanced through the night. Crimson devil fire met by ice projections, light spears, and the primal energy of transformed werewolves. Not full battle. Both sides showing restraint that prevented catastrophic escalation, but dangerous combat nonetheless as Issei's group fought to escape while devils attempted containment rather than elimination. For several chaotic moments, outcome remained uncertain. Then Kuroka's transportation magic activated, purple energy enveloping those nearest her, Issei, Koneko, and Amara. The last thing Issei saw before the shrine disappeared was Searsex's Lucifer's expression, not anger but something more complex, almost resembling concern. Reality twisted, compressed, the N expanded again as Kuroka's magic deposited them in unfamiliar surroundings, a dense forest glade far from the shrine, moonlight filtering through ancient trees. The abrupt transition left Issei momentarily disoriented, senses struggling to catalog new territory while adrenaline still surged from combat. "Where are we?" he asked, shifting back to hybrid form for easier communication. "Secondary safehouse," Kuroka replied, clearly drained from the magical exertion of transporting multiple individuals. About 20 miles northeast of Kuo, outside Devil territory. Amara surveyed their surroundings with sharp eyes. The others, scattered according to plan, Kuroka assured her. Kale's pack knows alternate rendezvous points. The Valkyries can handle themselves. The Ice Sisters likely returned to Winter Court territory. And we're safe here? Issei questioned, instinctively scanning for threats despite his unfamiliarity with the location. Temporarily, Amara confirmed. This area falls under tenuous yokai jurisdiction, less organized than Devil territories but generally respected due to collective defense agreements. The immediate danger past, Issei's thoughts turned to implications. They think I'm causing the boundary failures, he said, the accusation still stinging despite its apparent logical foundation. Am I? Could I be doing this without knowing? Unlikely, Amara replied, though her ancient eyes held uncertainty. The timing suggests correlation, but correlation isn't causation. Something larger appears to be unfolding. Koneko, who had remained characteristically quiet during the escape, finally spoke. Rias will be concerned when she learns what happened. Her sanctuary offer was genuine. Your devil mistress has admirable intentions, Kuroka acknowledged, surprising everyone with the uncharacteristic compliment. But limited authority against her brother and the Mao Council. She's not my mistress, Koneko corrected quietly but firmly. She's my friend. The simple declaration highlighted the fundamental difference in how the sisters viewed Devil society. Kuroka seeing only masters and subordinates, Koneko having found genuine connection despite her servant status. Neither perspective entirely wrong, yet incompatible in their absolutes. Regardless, Amara interjected, we must reassess our position. The underworld's direct intervention changes everything, especially their willingness to violate neutral territory during sacred ceremony. And their claim about my energy spikes preceding boundary failures, Issei added, troubled by the accusation's specific nature. Devil forces might be opportunistic, but Sears X hadn't struck him as someone who manufactured evidence. That requires investigation, Amara agreed. If your awakening truly connects to the boundary weaknesses, understanding how and why becomes essential. Kuroka stretched wearily, her usual fluid grace hampered by magical exhaustion. First priority is security. This location buys time, but devils have extensive tracking capabilities. We should move again after rest, preferably to non-aligned territory. My parents, Issei remembered suddenly, guilt surging through him. If devils think I'm causing supernatural disasters, will they target my family? Unlikely, Amara assured him. Devils follow certain conventions despite their aggressive policies. Non-supernatural family members generally remain exempt from direct action, especially given your adoptive parents' lack of knowledge. The reassurance helped, though Issei resolved to verify his family's safety as soon as possible. For now, immediate concerns demanded attention, securing their position, contacting scattered allies, and determining next steps in a situation that grew more complex by the hour. As the others discussed practical arrangements, Issei noticed Koneko standing apart, her expression troubled as she stared at her silent phone. The small Nekomata had risked much by upporting him against her devil associates, potentially compromising her position within the Grimoire household that had provided safety after her sister's disappearance. You didn't have to help us, he said quietly, approaching with careful respect for her personal space. I'd understand if you needed to return to Rias. Kaneko's pale eyes met his, complex emotions visible beneath her typically stoic expression. I made my choice, she replied simply. Why? Issei asked, genuinely curious about her motivations. You barely know me. Helping puts you at odds with people who've protected you for years. She considered his question with characteristic thoroughness before answering. Because it was right, she said finally. And because, she hesitated, uncharacteristic uncertainty crossing her features. Because you remind me of what it means to protect something precious, even when it's difficult. The admission contained layers of meaning, acknowledgement of her sister's actions in a new light. Recognition of Issei's commitment to his adoptive family despite his changing nature, perhaps even something more personal she wasn't ready to articulate. Before Issei could respond, Kuroka approached. Her customary smirk softened by evident fatigue. Touching conversation, she observed, though without her usual sarcastic edge. But we should establish proper wards before anyone gets sentimental. Despite her flippant tone, Something had shifted in Kuroka's demeanor toward her sister, a protective awareness that acknowledged Kaneko's choices rather than dismissing them. Progress, however small, in their fractured relationship. As the sisters moved to establish magical protections around their temporary sanctuary, Amara drew Issei aside. The blood moon's direct influence wanes, she noted, gesturing to the celestial body now descending toward the horizon. But its effects have permanently altered you. How do you feel? Issei considered the question seriously, taking in inventory of the profound changes he'd experienced. Stronger, he acknowledged. More connected to everything. Like I can sense the world in ways I couldn't before. The Alpha Awakening is complete, Amara confirmed. Your royal bloodline fully activated. What follows now depends on choices rather than biology. What choices? Issei asked, sensing deeper significance in her words. Amara's ancient eyes held his steadily. Whether to embrace leadership or reject it. Whether to unify scattered packs or remain solitary. Whether to involve yourself in supernatural politics or avoid them. She paused, her expression grave. The Moonfang bloodline carries influence beyond mere physical power. It inspires loyalty, creates bonds, builds packs from disparate individuals. The observation prong. Pted Issei to look thoughtfully at their small group, an ancient werewolf elder, two Nekomata sisters with a complicated history, and himself, all now bound together by circumstances and choices. Ulrea. A proto-pack forming around him despite his complete lack of experience or intention. I never asked for any of this, he said quietly. Few worthy of power ever do, Amara replied. Those who seek it most deserve it least. The philosophical exchange paused as Kuroka returned, dropping gracefully beside them with uncharacteristic weariness. Perimeter secured, she reported. Basic wards and misdirection spells in place. Not impenetrable, but should confuse pursuit temporarily. You've overextended, Amara observed critically. The transportation magic drained you significantly. Oka waved off the concern with typical nonchalance. Worth it to see the look on Lucifer's face when his perfect containment collapsed. Despite her bravado, exhaustion showed in the slight tremor of her hands and the dulled shine of her normally lustrous hair. Koneko approached cautiously, observing her sister's condition with barely concealed concern. After visible internal debate, she knelt beside Kuroka and hesitantly extended her hands, pale energy gathering around her fingers. You need stabilization, she stated quietly. Your Kai pathways are disrupted from forced transportation. Surprise flickered across Kuroka's features at the offered assistance. For a moment, her usual masks dropped entirely, revealing genuine vulnerability beneath cultivated indifference. You remember the technique, she murmured. You taught me before. Koneko trailed off, old pain surfacing before she deliberately refocused. I remember everything you taught me. The simple statement carried emotional weight beyond its words, acknowledgement of their shared past, the training bond between sisters that had once defined their relationship before tragedy and separation. With uncharacteristic gentleness, Koneko placed her hands on her sister's shoulders, channeling stabilizing energy that visibly eased Kuroka's exhaustion. The intimate moment revealed aspects of both sisters rarely displayed. Kuroka's willingness to accept help rather than maintain invulnerability, Kaneko's nurturing capacity beneath her emotional armor. Issei turned away, giving them privacy for this tentative reconnection. His enhanced senses detected Amara doing the same, moving to establish her own protective measures around their temporary sanctuary while the sisters shared their fragile moment of reconciliation. As he scanned their surroundings, cataloging scents and sounds with his new werewolf perception, Issei detected something odd, a subtle distortion in the atmosphere about half a mile north. Not magical exactly, but something that disrupted natural energy patterns in ways his instincts registered as potentially significant. Amara, he called quietly, indicating the direction. Something's wrong there. The elder werewolf paused her work, extending her senses toward his indication. Her expression darkened. Boundary weakness, she confirmed. The fabric between worlds thins in that location, exactly the phenomenon devils accused you of causing. Should we investigate? Issei asked, curious despite potential dangers. Cautiously, Amara decided after consideration. If your energy truly affects these disturbances, direct observation might provide insights. They informed the Nekomata sisters of their intention, leaving them to complete recovery while Issei and Amara approached the anomaly carefully. As they drew nearer, the distortion became more pronounced, a wavering in reality like heat rising from summer pavement, but with an otherworldly quality that raised hackles on Issei's neck. "What exactly are we looking at?" he whispered, instinctively keeping his voice low near the phenomenon. "A thinning between worlds," Amara explained, maintaining safe distance. "Natural bow. Endaries separate various supernatural realms from each other and from human reality. These boundaries have weakened periodically throughout history, but current deterioration exceeds normal patterns." Issei studied the distortion with enhanced senses, noting how nearby plant life seemed slightly withered, as if something about the anomaly drained vitality from its surroundings. "Is it dangerous?" "Potentially," Amara confirmed. "Small breaches allow energy transfer between realms. Larger ones permit actual passage, beings from one world entering another without proper transitions or controls." As if summoned by her explanation, the distortion suddenly pulsed, expanding momentarily before contracting again. In that brief expansion, something changed, a scent that didn't belong, a presence had registered to Issei's werewolf senses as fundamentally wrong. "Something came through," he growled, instinctively shifting to hybrid form as threat responses activated. Amara nodded grimly, her own partial transformation manifesting as she scanned their surroundings. "Stay alert. Boundary breaches often attract opportunistic entities, beings that exploit weaknesses to enter realms otherwise closed to them." They moved in careful tandem, tracking the foreign presence through underbrush with supernatural senses. Whatever had emerged moved with purpose rather than random exploration, heading directly toward their temporary sanctuary. "It's targeting our location," Issei realized with growing alarm. "How would it know where to find us?" "Some entities sense energy signatures across realms," Amara explained tersely. "Alpha awakening during blood moon creates significant magical emissions." The implications disturbed Issei deeply. If his transformation attracted attention not just from this world's supernatural factions but from other realms entirely, the complications multiplied exponentially. They tracked the intruder to a small clearing where it had paused, revealing itself a humanoid figure with distinctly non-human features. Tall and gaunt with grayish skin and elongated limbs, it moved with unsettling fluidity as it systematically placed small objects around the clearing perimeter. "Boundary Scout," Amara identified softly. "Advance agent testing realm stability for larger incursions." "Hostile?" Issei asked, though instinct had already answered with resounding affirmation. "Invariably," Amara confirmed. "They prepare weak points for exploitation. Those devices strengthen the breach, allowing more substantial forces to follow." The creature suddenly stiffened, head turning with unnatural precision toward their observation position. It had sensed them despite their careful concealment. "We've been detected," Amara warned unnecessarily. "Prepare for." Before she could complete the warning, the entity moved with shocking speed, covering ground between them in a blur of motion. Its attack targeted Amara first, recognizing her as the more experienced threat, with elongated fingers transformed into razor-sharp appendages. Issei reacted instinctively, intercepting the creature with his own supernatural speed. They collided with bone-jarring impact, his werewolf strength momentarily halting its advance. Up close, its wrongness intensified, not merely non-human but fundamentally misaligned with this reality, as if its molecular structure followed different physical laws. "Disrupt the devices," Amara called, joining the physical confrontation with centuries of combat experience evident in her precise movements. "They anchor its presence here." Understanding the priority, Issei disengaged from direct combat, trusting Amara to hold the entity temporarily while he targeted the objects it had placed around the clearing. Each appeared similar, small crystalline structures that pulsed with sickly light, emitting energy that somehow strengthened the boundary distortion. He destroyed them systematically, claws shattering the alien technology with satisfying effectiveness. Each destruction weakened the entity's connection to this realm, its movements becoming less fluid, more desperate as anchors failed. When the final device shattered, the creature emitted a sound beyond conventional hearing, a psychic shriek of frustration that resonated painfully through Issei's enhanced senses. Its physical form began deteriorating, chunks of matter simply ceasing to exist as its tether to this reality weakened. In final desperation, it launched itself at Issei, perhaps recognizing him as the source of energy that had initially attracted its attention. Amara intercepted with blinding speed, centuries of combat experience evident as she deflected its attack with her staff before delivering a devastating counterstrike. The creature collapsed, its form unraveling as physical laws reasserted dominance. Within moments, nothing remained but a faint oily residue that itself began evaporating into nothingness. What was that? Issei demanded, adrenaline still surging through his system. Boundary predator, Amara replied grimly, examining the clearing for any remaining devices. They exploit weaknesses between worlds, preparing incursions for their masters. Masters? Issei questioned, disliking the implications. Entities that find our reality appetizing, Amara elaborated reluctantly. The ancient barriers weren't established merely for separation but for protection. Some realms contain beings with ambitions harmful to all other worlds. The explanation raised more questions than it answered, but before Issei could press further, his enhanced hearing detected rapid approach, two figures moving with supernatural speed toward their position. Kuroka and Koneko, he identified, relaxing slightly as he recognized their distinctive energy signatures. The Nekomata sisters arrived moments later, both exhibiting combat readiness despite their earlier exhaustion. We felt the disturbance, Kuroka explained, golden eyes canning the clearing with wary assessment. Breach activity. Amara nodded confirmation. Scout entity with anchoring technology. Neutralized, but its presence concerns me. Boundary predators rarely operate independently. Coordinated incursion, Kuroka suggested, her playful demeanor entirely absent as she examined the fading residue with evident expertise. Multiple breaches simultaneously. Potentially, Amara agreed, her ancient eyes troubled, which adds complexity to our situation. If boundary failures truly accelerate during Alpha Awakening, coincidence becomes increasingly unlikely. All eyes turned to Issei, who felt the weight of implication pressing down like physical burden. You think there is a connection between my transformation and these breaches, he stated, facing the possibility directly. Not causative necessarily, Amara clarified, but related somehow. Historical records mention similar correlations during previous convergence events, supernatural awakenings coinciding with boundary thinning. Convergence, Koneko repeated softly, recognition flickering in her pale eyes. Rias has ancient texts mentioning something similar, cyclical periods when barriers naturally weaken. The scholarly observation surprised the others, highlighting aspects of Koneko's development beyond her combat abilities. Kuroka studied her sister with newfound appreciation before contributing her own knowledge. Senjutsu masters track these cycles, she confirmed. Current patterns suggest accelerated thinning beyond normal parameters, as if something catalyzes natural processes. Or someone, Issei added, acknowledging his potential involvement directly. Could my awakening somehow be triggering these boundary failures without my knowledge? Amara considered this possibility with characteristic thoroughness. Alpha transformation generates significant magical emissions, especially royal bloodlines during celestial events like the blood moon. That energy could theoretically interact with pre-existing boundary weaknesses, accelerating natural deterioration. Which would make the devil's accusations technically accurate, Kuroka noted, if incomplete in understanding. The realization shifted Issei's perspective on recent events. If his transformation genuinely contributed to dimensional instability, even unintentionally, then supernatural factions had legitimate cause for concern. Their methods remained questionable, but their fundamental alarm appeared justified. So what do we do? He asked pragmatically. I can't exactly stop being what I am now. No, Amara agreed, but you can learn to modulate your energy emissions. With proper training, alphas can control their magical signature, focusing or dispersing power as needed. I could help with that, Kuroka offered unaffectedly. Senjutsu techniques include energy containment principles applicable to various supernatural types. Even more surprisingly, Koneko nodded agreement. Controlled release rather than constant emission. Similar to techniques Rias taught for managing devil power in human environments. The sisters' unified support, offered independently from different bases, marked significant evolution in their relationship. No longer positioning themselves in opposition, they found common ground in addressing practical problems. Further discussion halted as Issei suddenly tensed, new sense reaching his enhanced senses. Someone's coming, he warned. Multiple signatures. Not devils, something different. The group immediately shifted to defensive positions. Supernatural senses extending to identify the approaching threat. Within moments, figures emerged from surrounding forest, 3 individuals moving with coordinated precision that suggested military training. Their leader stepped forward, a woman of striking appearance with silver-white hair cut in practical style, violet eyes, and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Though dressed in modern tactical clothing, she carried a traditional katana whose sheath radiated subtle magical energy. Peace, she called, hands raised to demonstrate non-hostile intent. We come as allies, not enemies. Identify yourself, Amara demanded, staff positioned for immediate defensive action if necessary. Karasuba Fujimura, the woman replied, her Japanese name delivered with slight Western accent. Field Commander of the Spectral Council's Boundary Response Division. The title produced visible reaction from both Amara and Kuroka, recognition of significant authority within supernatural hierarchy. Even Koneko straightened slightly, respectful awareness evident in her posture. The council intervenes directly, Amara questioned, surprise evident beneath her controlled exterior. Unusual protocol, unusual circumstances. Karasuba responded evenly. 17 boundary breaches in 72 hours, coinciding with Alpha awakening during Blood Moon. Add unauthorized devil military operations in neutral territory and direct boundary predator incursion. She gestured expressively. Council attention seems warranted. Her violet eyes focused on Issei with penetrating assessment. So you're the Moonfang heir causing such commotion. Younger than expected. I keep hearing that, Issei replied with unexpected composure, finding his diplomatic voice despite the continuous escalation of his situation. Along with accusations about boundary failures I neither intended nor understand. Something like approval flickered across Karasuba's disciplined features. Direct, refreshing amid supernatural politics, she turned to address the entire group. The council requests your presence at Nexus Sanctuary for consultation regarding recent developments. Requests or demands? Kuroka questioned, characteristic suspicion evident beneath casual tone. Requests with strong recommendation, Karasuba clarified diplomatically. The situation transcends factional interests. Boundary stability affects all realms. And if we decline? Issei asked, testing boundaries both literal and political. Karasuba's expression remained professional, though something like respect showed in her violet eyes. Then we respectfully provide escort to any neutral territory of your choosing, while noting that solving boundary degradation becomes significantly more challenging without your cooperation. The response balanced authority with respect for autonomy, skillful diplomacy that acknowledged Issei's status without resorting to devil-style intimidation tactics. Amara appeared impressed despite her cautious nature. What exactly does the council want from me? Issei pressed, requiring specifics before considering cooperation. Information primarily, Karasuba replied. Your RGY signatures interaction with boundary stability requires analysis. Additionally, the council seeks historical context. Previous convergence events share patterns with current developments. You believe this is a convergence cycle? Amara stated rather than asked, ancient understanding evident in her tone. Karasuba nodded once, decisively. All indicators suggest early-stage convergence manifestation. If correct, coordinated response becomes essential across all supernatural factions. The assessment aligned with observations they'd already made independently, lending credibility to the council representatives' approach. After silent communication through glances, their small group reached unspoken consensus. We'll accompany you to the Nexus Sanctuary, Issei decided, speaking for their improvised pack by unspoken agreement. But we maintain freedom of movement and departure rights. Agreed, Karasuba confirmed without hesitation. Standard diplomatic protocols apply to all Alpha bloodline representatives. With arrangements settled, preparation for departure began. As Karasuba's team established transportation logistics, Issei found moment for private conversation with the Nekomata sisters, whose continued presence surprised him given their complicated personal situations. You don't have to come, he told them, recognizing the increasing complications they faced by remaining with him. Especially you, Koneko. Rias will worry about your safety. The smaller Nekomata considered his words before responding with characteristic directness. Rias would want me to help resolve boundary threats. They endanger devil territories too. Kuroka stretched languidly, masking deeper consideration beneath casual movement. The council offers better protection than we'd manage independently. She observed pragmatically. Strategic alliance, nothing more. Despite her dismissive framing, something had shifted in Kuroka's involvement, commitment extending beyond mere self-interest or temporary convenience. Similarly, Kaneko's continued presence despite her devil connections suggested priorities evolving beyond previous limitations. As preparations concluded and NCIL transportation magic activated around them, Issei reflected on Amara's earlier words about the Moonfang bloodline's tendency to build packs from disparate individuals. Already this process manifested unlikely allies united through shared experience and developing loyalty beyond rational explanation. The blood moon had permanently transformed him physically, but these emerging bonds represent equally significant change, one heart and relationship at a time. Reality shifted around them as transportation magic activated, carrying their unlikely alliance toward new challenges and deeper entanglements in the supernatural world that had claimed Issei Hyodo as its own. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.